Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time for final Oscar predictions, and we're very scared. Lots of uncertainty has just hit the race with those PGA nominations. I feel like at this point in award season, I've been feeling like I've just kind of lost like the pulse of where the season's going. And I do feel like I'm kind of grasping in the dark because a lot of these precursors I haven't been able to predict very well since the Golden Globe nominations. You know, maybe Critics' Choice I did okay, but... Yeah, I almost am trying to be conservative with my predictions and try to cling to as many 4 out of 5 in categories as I can. Yeah, I think for Oscar nominations, it's wise to just try to get, like you said, 4 out of 5 in a category. Oftentimes, honestly, my old strategy was I would go to Gold Derby and I would do whatever the top 5 is. And then here and there, I would make slight adjustments when I think that they're just wrong about something. Like, and I think it's kind of obvious that they're wrong. Yeah, if you can get like 2 better than what the community average is, you actually do really well. That's like the science behind, you know, what a really successful Oscar predictions. Like, you're not gonna get 90%. You're gonna get, if you get 80%, you're probably gonna do, that's probably way above average. But you know, we're just here to have a good discussion about where the state of the race is, and you know, we're gonna pull from the different guilds that have happened. So let's go to Best Picture. I don't really want to spend too much time talking about the winners because there's so much else to talk about, and I don't know what's winning in this category, but I think Emilia Perez and Anora are 1 and 2. Yeah, let me just say I think this is gonna come down to SAG and PGA, because if you really look back at precedent, the only film in the last decade that didn't win SAG or PGA but won Best Picture was Moonlight. Everything else was determined by SAG or PGA. So, and Brutalist doesn't have SAG, and Brutalist probably won't win PGA. It just doesn't seem like a populist enough pick for them. And also, BAFTA alone is not the thing to do. So, BAFTA is going to lead you astray. Even if Brutalist goes Best Film, if PGA doesn't agree, then I don't care. BAFTA and text can be very, very valuable, and in acting categories too, but I can understand why people have Anora at number 4, because if it doesn't win PGA or SAG, it is like, it's just down there. Sure. Anything that I could see Conclave winning PGA or SAG. Right. Honestly. Right. I could see Emilia Perez winning PGA, DGA, or SAG. Yes. That's right. This is a rough season. Yeah. Also, Wicked, I was thinking maybe that would win SAG Ensemble, but it might. I took a lot of stock in the fact that it didn't get Screenplay at BAFTA. It actually lost Screenplay to Nickel Boys and Sing Sing. It wasn't really expected, but that would have showed a lot for me, and it also didn't get DGA. So I don't think Wicked has a chance to win Best Picture. It might win SAG Ensemble, though. I know. But I don't think it would win PGA, and I don't think it's going to win Best Picture. Yeah. So anyway, the top 4 is obviously in any order you want. It's Conclave, Emilia Perez, and Brutalist. Complete Unknown's obviously number 5. It has DGA, it has BAFTA Best Film, what more do you need? It also has SAG Ensemble. Wicked's doing well. Wicked might win SAG Ensemble. It has all the big nominations it needs. Dune Part 2 and The Substance are kind of similar in that they're not making like lineups of 5. But they're doing well enough, you know, they're getting all the nominations they need. The mystery, as we all know, is 9 and 10. Slots 9 and 10. Yeah. Where Nickel Boys and Sing Sing were doing really well early on. They got like AFI and Critics' Choice. Doing well with critics groups. Then Sing Sing hasn't gotten anything since. Nickel Boys has Golden Globe. September 5 has Golden Globe and PGA. And A Real Pain has PGA and also did well at the Globes. Got a screenplay nomination at the Globes. So what I did to try to figure out this category, my first instinct is to compile all of the like near making it in, or the movies that just made it in barely, or had a weird like Women Talking and Nightmare Alley and Tick Tick Boom missed and The Whale missed and Triangle of Sadness made it in, like, and I profile all these movies and see if there are some patterns, okay? And there is not a formula that just makes sense. Like, I could tell you about how it's important that, you know, Women Talking and Nightmare Alley had a surprise SAG nomination. But Babylon also got a SAG Ensemble nomination, didn't make it in. The Whale got 2 SAG nominations, didn't make it in. The Whale got 4 BAFTA nominations, including Screenplay, and then didn't make it in, even with PGA. Like, things don't make sense. Right. But I also noticed a couple things that don't apply this year. Number 1, a film that does well at BAFTA, that the guilds don't really care about, like, you know, be it Triangle of Sadness or Drive My Car or Philomena, like, we don't have that out of these 4 films that we're considering. So that's not a factor here. If there was like a movie that was, you know, the British were liking, or that had the international thing going for it, we could lean there. But All We Imagine Is Light, I'm Still Here, Sacred Fake, like none of these are taking off. That doesn't exist this year. Yeah, the weird thing with Nickel Boys is it feels like that
film that's really critically acclaimed that can sneak into the Oscars, but it's not European. And those films tend to be European. Or actually, well, Drive My Car wasn't European, but
it did well at BAFTA, though. Nickel Boys was kind of doing what some of those films do here, which is, you know, doing well at New York Film Critics, LA Film Critics, National Society of Film Critics. It doesn't have the international support that sometimes these critically acclaimed films need to get in there. But that is, you know, still something to consider, is that it was a critic's pick. Another factor, I think, is the filmmaker. Think about A Serious Man squeezing in, Nightmare Alley, Sarah Polley for Women Talking, like even Triangle of Sadness maybe. Like these movies had big filmmakers at the helm. The 4 that we're considering don't. When we look at these 4 films, 3 of them have a major problem, which is that people don't know what the fuck they are. Sing Sing, September 5, Nickel Boys, underseen, haven't made a lot of money, are really relying on the Oscar buzz to make money, and voters may not consider these movies worthy of the top of the pile. Like, they just haven't, maybe they haven't gotten to them, they haven't heard enough about them. The movie that doesn't have this problem is A Real Pain. Winning, you know, the Golden Globe with Kieran Culkin, who's likely to continue winning awards, the fact that that movie's being pushed by Searchlight, it has more stars in it. This has strengths that the others don't. I would guess that it's been seen more.
Yeah, if you think about the Oscar, and I've seen a lot of people doing this, thinking about the Oscar voter as a kind of lazy person who just watches what they're told or watches what they think is they're supposed to watch. They know who Kieran Culkin is. They know who Jesse Eisenberg is. Even Emma Stone producing it, like, just as like a really well-connected and famous producer, I think that even helps. I don't know if thinking about like the lazy Oscar voter is going to get us really far, because I do feel like the Oscars, when it comes down to their nominations, sometimes they surprisingly do their homework and they'll give a nomination to a film that didn't necessarily pop up in many other places. Like, the director's branch I would consider is a branch that does their homework usually.
Yeah, but what in the Best Picture category would you compare to this?
Beasts of the Southern Wild, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, that got PGA, though, so that we were pretty comfortable there. Like, if Sing Sing or Nickel Boys made PGA, I'd be like, okay.
I think Drive My Car is a really good example.
I mean, they probably saw it because it was the international frontrunner that was generating nominations.
You know, the Oscars have to go with something that's off the radar. And so it's kind of up to some voters, like a smaller portion of the voters, and that film has to be capable of getting #1 votes. You know, it just matters if you have passion. So even if 10 or 15% of them actually do know what's going on and are paying attention and are giving #1 votes to a certain film, that can be enough.
And which one has the most passion?
That's so hard to say, because I would say Nickel Boys and Sing Sing have the most passion. They have the highest Letterboxd scores, so people who do see it, who are interested in film, tend to love those movies. Love them.
Yeah, but the September 5 thing, older voters are not on Twitter. Like, we don't know who they are. You can say, oh, that movie has no buzz, it's nowhere. And
no, I get
you're kind of right. Like, it didn't even make one BAFTA long list, so you're kind of right.
Yeah.
Also, lone PGA, like, really not getting anything until PGA, not the best. It's not the best.
No.
Actually, well, it did get Golden Globes, so that's fair. But again, it was so scantly into the Golden Globes. I don't really think I can predict September 5, although I wouldn't even be shocked if it got in. I also don't think PGA is going for 10 for 10, okay? I think that we got to pick Sing Sing or Nickel Boys.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, where PGA doesn't align, they go for something that got into Critics' Choice.
Yeah, I almost want to start by saying, look, we're not going to go with the top 10 for PGA. It would be too insane if it was both A Real Pain and September 5 for Oscar. Or at least it would throw me the fuck off. It would slap me in the face, and it would change the way that I think about the Oscars.
They're not doing 10 for 10 2 years in a row. I mean, it could even be Sing Sing and Nickel Boys, but I think A Real Pain just has a little bit better of a case.
I don't know, because September 5 could be that film for the older voter they feel genuinely passionate about. And it does have those nominations it could get in editing and screenplay, and if it gets those 2 nominations, looking at Best Picture, we're almost going to be like, fuck, it's going to happen.
It's like number 5 in both those categories.
Yeah, but
Triangle of Sadness was number 5 in screenplay, and director, we didn't even think it was number 5. It still got in.
It's like Amelia Perez. We don't really know how people feel about that movie. We don't know if they feel passionately.
Overall, as a package, like, it doesn't have the star power, like the director behind it. Like, it doesn't quite make a spotlight. It doesn't quite.
It would be unique. If September 5 made it into Best Picture, given its performance thus far, it would be unique. But it's not really a surprising film for them to put into Best Picture because
it's
of
plain
the type
Oscar
of
bait.
story.
It's got like a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes. Like they don't care about the controversy with it either. They just do not.
No, they don't care about the controversy.
They're not thinking about that.
No, and it matters that this is Paramount's only Oscar film. They're doing their damnedest to get it into front of voters.
Paramount's not a guaranteed studio, though.
Sure, but it just matters that you're the #1 film.
If we're going by studio, again, A Real Pain is a great case. Even Searchlight getting 2 movies in is not a problem. A24 squeezing 2 movies in, yes, it's been done. It didn't happen with The Whale. Like, we know that Sing Sing hasn't really been bolstered by them that well. Amazon, on the other hand, their only contender this year is Nickel Boys. And they did squeeze Women Talking in there with just screenplay and picture. So I kind of am leaning Nickel Boys just because I do agree that maybe those trifecta type wins, that critics' attention really does translate. Now, the best case I would make for Sing Sing is this. Coleman Domingo has been a staple. So they have seen it. And who's seen it? Who's voting for Coleman Domingo? The largest branch of the Academy, the actors. So it's good that there's just an actor in there who's getting all those votes. Yeah. And it's so hard. Like it continues
and he was nominated last year.
It continues to boggle the mind though that voters have seen Sing Sing enough to nominate Coleman Domingo, and somehow they're not obsessed with it. Like it just seems like the most Oscar-friendly, like wonderful movie. It's made less lineups than Nickel Boys, because Nickel Boys at least had Golden Globe. With BAFTA though, I understand that people are like, oh, how does it perform, better at BAFTA than the Oscar? Maybe it's because of the long lists. It's 6 slots. Macklin was probably number 6, for being honest.
Yes,
but also maybe with the long list, them being forced to watch all the films, they're like, oh, I understand. So I think it's possible that Sing Sing is only Best Actor. Maybe it's Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor and no screenplay. Kind of like how The Whale didn't get screenplay at the Oscars. Maybe it's Best Actor, Best Screenplay.
I do feel like the problem for Sing Sing and Nickel Boys is a visibility problem. I think it does intersect with the fact that you're trying to pitch these films to a majority white voting body, and they're independent films that haven't soared at the box office. So like, they just don't strike people as priority. This is my speculation. But I do feel like Nickel Boys does have some markers of prestige, and I'm kind of saying that in like a cynical way. It kind of sucks that you need to have these markers to succeed, but I think this is how it is. Given that it's based on the Pulitzer Prize winning novel, given that it's a period film, and then Sing Sing, Coleman Domingo is really like the one bringing that together and just being like on the screener makes people like think this is something they should see. I mean, if he wasn't in the movie, I don't think there's any chance that it would be getting attention. Here's how I think A Real Pain might come up short, because we did make a good case for why it's maybe the standout film among all of the bubble films. Tic Tic Boom, I, Tonya are examples of films that missed Best Picture, but did do well with nominations. And those films were highly visible, but just not loved quite as much. And A Real Pain, I think, may not be a film people put at #1 on their ballot. That's my reasoning behind why A Real Pain might not make it into Oscar. September 5, it's really hard to tell whether people would feel passionate about it, but I think there's enough people it could happen. This is kind of a black box, honestly. September 5 is a black box. I don't know how people are seeing it, how people are responding to it, because I just don't have a connection to that. And I'm also inclined, like you said, not to go with 10 out of 10 for PGA. I'm inclined to put Nickel Boys in.
I've always felt like I could understand why guilds wouldn't embrace Nickel Boys, as it is more challenging. And I guess BAFTA, like, this type of movie's not really on their radar. Like, it's not about a well-known issue to them. Like, they have no idea. I don't know, they can't connect it with it. They have a history of sometimes ignoring African-American films. So I feel like I can make an excuse as to why the Oscars might like it more. The Oscars a bit artsier taste, And I always thought Nickel Boys would perform better at the Oscars than other places. And even though it's not going to perform as well as I wish it was, maybe it's still better, And
then Sing Sing, again, I think it's like you said, people are very passionate about that film who see it. A 4.3 on Letterboxd is huge. Not many films touch that level of acclaim and that level of passion. And Letterboxd does skew young, so maybe you can't tell with Amelia Perez in September 5, but I don't see why older people wouldn't like Sing Sing.
I think A Real Pain is kind of like The Kids Are All Right.
But that movie got SAG and PGA.
No, that movie did better. I think I might go with A Real Pain, Nickel Boys. If it's September 5 and Sing Sing, I'm just gonna give up on fucking trying.
Yeah, I'm gonna give up
my
on
God.
predicting if that happens too. But I'm also tempted to just go against PGA and do Nickel Boys and Sing Sing and hope that I'm 9 out of 10.
You probably would get 9 out of 10 unless PGA
I know it's
is
a weird
10
strategy.
for 10, right?
I know it's a
Like,
weird strategy, but I think the least likely scenario is that PGA is 10 for 10. So I'm most likely going to be 9 for 10 if I go Sing Sing and Nickel Boys.
I also kind of agree with that.
Because September 5 is a weird one where I absolutely trust that voters are liking it. I totally buy that. I don't want to underestimate it, and I'm going to put it in screenplay and editing, I think. But it's a really hard one, again, because it feels like a black box, and I don't know what other films have performed like this one that have gotten into the Oscars.
So Best Director, there's a really easy 5 that you can do here. So Brady Corbet, Sean Baker, Jacques Audiard, Edward Berger. I think it could be foolish to doubt any of them.
Yep.
Even Edward Berger. So Jacques
I think
Audiard,
it's
like,
absolutely foolish.
stop predicting Jacques Audiard to miss. Like, that's not happening.
That's
not happening.
He won the EFA award for Best Director. Their Best Director winner actually correlates with a lot of Oscar surprises. So Ruben Östlund won this award, Justine Triet for An Amiable Fall, Vinterberg for Another Round, Powell Palakowski for Cold War. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but Audiard won this year. That's just icing on the cake for someone who's gotten nominations everywhere in a film that has performed like a top 2 or 3 contender everywhere it's been. People love the energy and the audacity of Amelia Perez, and that's the, like, it's the thing they like about it.
I'm just gonna go out on a sizzling crazy here, which is that I'm predicting the movies that were in Cannes competition in the directing category. That shouldn't be crazy, shouldn't be controversial, but that's what I'm doing.
How is
okay?
No one thinks it's controversial.
No, apparently people are think that like Berger or Farjat can miss. I mean, okay, Farjat can miss just because that movie is arguably like number 8 or so. But still, I mean, the top 5's obvious. Look, DGA goes 4 out of 5 with the Oscars almost every year. Last year was 3 out of 5. Okay, well, that's because we had 2 Cannes competition films in there. And the top 4 DGA contenders have been nominated everywhere.
Yep.
So,
which doesn't include Farjat.
right, but Farjat has gotten everything but that one DGA.
Yeah.
And then you can just easily say, well, James Mangold for A Complete Unknown, like the Oscars aren't going to nominate like a music biopic for Best Director, to fuck that.
Yeah.
And just put it, it's so easy.
And by the way, the reason that Mangold's not getting it is because DGA never goes 5 out of 5, and he's obviously number 5, and he didn't have any other nominations. And they love auteurs. The director's branch at Academy Awards loves auteur filmmakers, and that's why they won't do Mangold. He's not really like that. He doesn't have a distinct style. He's a very competent filmmaker, but they just won't do that kind of movie in the same way that they wouldn't do something like Wicked for Best Director.
Yeah.
That's not their brand. The wise thing to do would go the top 4 that have gotten in everywhere, you know, the ones who got in at DGA minus Mangold, and then put in Farjat because she's performed excellently in her directing categories, and she's absolutely an auteur. People love the vision that is The Substance, and she brought that film to a whole other level. If The Substance has any passion at all, it just makes sense to go with her. Now, this would be a very cozy top 5, and this is what I would like advise you to do, honestly.
However, when has the top 5 been cozy?
Right.
When's the last time that Gold Derby was right?
Yeah,
I'm
so like
pretty sure that's what Gold
This
Derby's
is probably going to be the
predicting.
Gold Derby 5. I think everyone knows that Villeneuve is out, honestly. You know, sad as it is, undeserving as it is, Villeneuve has just underperformed. Now, the problem is that the director's branch loves to surprise you. They love it. Even when you think it's easy top 5. They'll be like, fuck you, Aaron Sorkin for Trial of Chicago 7, Thomas Vinterberg for Another Round. That kind of swap happens all the time, and it happens for people you don't think it would happen with. Like Hamaguchi beat Villeneuve in for Dune Part 1. They love their auteur directors.
Especially the Europeans, the internationals,
Yes.
the ones who get BAFTA.
The one time it didn't was, you know, All Quiet in recent years, and that was because Edward Berger wasn't really considered an auteur director. We didn't really understand his voice. It was a first film that we've seen from him, so that's kind of why he didn't really make it for that.
So, do you think that
even Triet's
now,
not really an auteur, but she got in.
every French filmmaker is an auteur? But listen,
Yeah, I think-
has Edward Berger earned his place in the directing
Oh,
lineup now,
absolutely.
do you think?
Again, I think that it makes so much sense for Berger to be nominated. Here's why I think it's not an 100% guarantee that he gets in. Because even though that is a really well-made film, he's not quite an auteur. And Conclave is like kind of a thriller.
It's kind of still like All Quiet in that it's a very like well done, well made movie. Maybe like Martin McDonagh, who didn't get nominated his first go around in Best Picture.
Yeah.
And he gets it for Banshees because everyone's like, all right, buddy. Like,
yeah,
we
like
you
they
now.
understand his style. It's one of the favorite movies of the year.
Conclave's not exactly a 90 on Metacritic movie. I still think that if there's one of the 4, locks that gets snubbed, it is him. And let's just talk about who could surprise in this category. Because obviously Ramel Ross, like, we've made the case before. This is the first video in a while that we are not predicting him. And it's just because Nickel Boys is so weak that I don't think I can do it anymore.
Oh, I might do it. It's an autorial vision that from a film that inspires passion. If it does get into Best Picture without Best Director, that feels kind of weird. And it did really well with like director precursors, as in it was winning these Film Circle awards. So it's a totally kind of risky bet to take.
The Oscars like Terrence Malick, like they liked Ben Zeitlin.
For Beasts of Southern Wild, yeah.
Also probably Terrence Malick inspired. Ramel Ross, Terrence Malick inspired a protege. So,
yeah.
They would like, that's also why I think Nickel Boys might do okay, is because they like those kinds of movies. Ben Zeitlin's the precedent here that I think you can use, but that movie got PGA, and it was a little more clear that it was getting Best Picture.
Also, Lenny Abrahamson for Room strikes me as similar as well, but Room, it didn't really feel like an auteur film, but it was an American indie that surprised in this category.
So was Jason Reitman for Juno. But those two movies were doing much better, though.
These are films that didn't really have any precursor director nominations, right?
Not really, no. I also think, and I call me crazy, but maybe Robert Eggers could surprise in this category in like a Bennett Miller Foxcatcher or like a Phantom Thread way, and that movie gets into Best Picture. Maybe it picks up 5 tech nominations, and we're kind of like, hold up here. And then it actually gets Director Picture. And because the movie's surging late. I wouldn't predict it because it couldn't even get WGA adapted with all the ineligibilities. Didn't get PGA, despite
it's
making
surging,
money.
But it's not getting any acting nominations, and it's not getting any
nothing above the line for this movie at all.
Like even Phantom Thread, which is like really the only precedent for something like Nosferatu making it into Director Picture at the Oscars. Phantom Thread was getting acting nominations. Didn't Leslie Manville get a BAFTA nomination for that?
BAFTA.
And Daniel Day-Lewis is obviously in it.
Yeah, I was getting a couple texts.
That movie premiered late. Like I think it came into theaters like as the nominations were happening.
I think that's one of the possibilities, honestly, for the big surprise.
Could Payal Kapadia get in for All We Imagine As Light? I just think probably not.
It didn't even get Screenplay at BAFTA.
Yeah, if it got Screenplay at BAFTA, if it got Director at BAFTA, I would consider it. But I think it's kind of off the table, and you would really just be like going on a whim here.
Also, Sacred Fig is just not even making the long list in those 2 categories at BAFTA is crazy.
No, that's not gonna happen.
That's crazy.
That didn't do well enough with precursors either.
I mean, he won LA Critics Director. That was good.
That's the only thing he won.
Yeah.
It's the only thing.
Kapadia has International Society.
And she has a Golden Globe nomination.
She has a Globe nomination. So she's
bigger
possible upset, but that would be kind of insane.
So this could be a year where the director's branch just isn't that weird. And it's because they have a lot of like European options.
That's
as
the
it
thing.
is.
They have enough movies in this lineup that it already kind of fits their taste. They don't need to pull.
There are three European directors here. There's Audiard, there's Farjad.
And then Courbet is like obviously director's branch bait too. I mean,
the problem that I'm having is it's hard to take a movie out. I just think Ramel Ross, I might just go with something fun for fun.
It's not fun if you're wrong.
I might stick with it. It's okay if I'm wrong on that. Berger would be the one I'd swap out because he most fits the bill for someone who gets swapped for someone else. I feel like I have to go down with the ship.
You're ride or die Nickel Boys.
Yeah, to a fault.
All right, that's fine.
I admit it's my fault.
If you want to be flawed, then go ahead. All right, Best Actress. So Demi Moore, Mikey Madison, getting nominated, contending for the win. Very obvious. And then we have Gascon, who has not missed a damn thing.
Yeah.
No reason to doubt. Think she'll be totally fine here. I know that people are trying to call snubs. Any snubs that anyone's trying to call for Amelia Perez is hope dicting. Also, Cynthia Erivo missing for Wicked, like, I know you could say she's Barbie, like Margot Robbie for Barbie, but like I just don't think it's the same thing. I think that Cynthia Erivo gave a very show-stopping, powerful performance where she sang and she cried and like.
I think it's about more than just the performance too. Like her campaign and her visibility this season has been off the charts.
It's a new career height for her. Whereas Margot Robbie, she almost met expectations for people. I guess I would say.
I would say Cynthia Erivo has a shot to win SAG.
I agree with that too.
I think she's pretty sewn up. It would be a brutal snub. It would be worse than Margot Robbie and Barbie because I never thought that Margot Robbie and Barbie was that close to a nomination. I was surprised that she got in like BAFTA.
Now I have a message to everybody who is predicting that one of the 4 actresses who got nominated everywhere, who is also attached to a Best Picture film, misses. I have a message to you all. I have a stat board that I put together that I've been looking at for the past few years, and it's about how the Oscar nominations always lean more towards actors in their Best Picture lineup than the SAG does. Most years, in most categories, Oscar is equal or +1 in terms of how many Best Picture attached performances are in the lineup. So what you're doing if you're predicting an Arivo snub is you're saying that SAG goes -1 with Oscar. Now, I'll tell you how many times this has happened in the last 12 years or 13 years across all acting categories. 3 times. 3 times.
In the past 13 years?
Yes.
So essentially, if you take anybody from the top 4 out, you're predicting it to be an anomaly that we only see.
You're predicting a huge anomaly that is actually a huge anomaly.
Yeah, a huge
Even
anomaly.
last year, like sure, Margot Robbie missed, but Sandra Hüller got in too.
Yes. It's so important to have that Best Picture anchor.
Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers, Eddie Redmayne for The Good Nurse.
Yeah.
Like
any acting category.
always
applies.
less safe if you're not part of Best Picture, and Best Picture makes
And
you
look
very
at
safe.
Angelina Jolie for Maria. I mean, it already happened. We already know she's not getting the nomination, but it's because being in a Best Picture film is so important. So I just would not bet against any of these top 4.
I also think that we're constantly subject to a last year bias where we think that things are more likely to mirror the exact year before in the same way. I think that's the main reason people are predicting Arivo to get snubbed. If Margot Robbie didn't get snubbed last year, or if Barbie wasn't a thing, like people wouldn't be doing that. Remember when Elvis came around and everyone was like, oh, it's gonna be just like Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, it's gonna win Golden Globe Drama, it's gonna win 4 Oscars. Completely different result there. I think that you gotta be safe and predict these 4, although I kind of get it. There are a lot of contenders in this category that are really strong, that I could see Oscar going for. And so it could make sense for there to be a couple surprises and for that to happen. And so if you were to ask me which one is most likely to miss, I would say Cynthia Erivo.
I don't know why, though.
Yeah, I don't have a good enough reason. I'm not going to predict
Yeah.
it, but I'm just saying.
I would give her and Gascon about like maybe 80% each, which is still really good. It's no reason to predict against them, but
Yeah.
I think there is maybe room for them to miss.
Because I think that there are 3 strong contenders for the last slot, and it's Torres, it's Baptiste, it's Pamela Anderson.
Yep.
And I don't think Pamela Anderson is some SAG fluke, and it's especially because Jamie Lee Curtis is coming along.
Yeah.
And Jamie Lee Curtis, when she campaigns, she loves to uplift her entire movie and her
Yeah.
co-stars. I also feel like it could be a Naiad situation, right? But that's also, again, could be a last year bias if
Right.
I think that Pamela Anderson must equal Annette Bening because she has Globe and SAG and her co-stars getting in. So I don't know if that's good enough reason alone, but Pamela Anderson is a great narrative, very similar to like
Yep.
a Demi Moore narrative.
Yep.
And I would very much take her seriously, especially, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis getting in and stuff. It feels like a package duo. Apparently that movie's been doing a great job.
Pamela Anderson does have a really compelling narrative. It's, like you said, the perfect Oscar narrative where you come back into a film and you're kind of like doing an indie performance. You're like, we've never seen you before. And you're kind of like winking or nodding to like your previous career.
There's a meta aspect.
Yeah,
to
there's
it.
a meta
Like
aspect.
The wrestler
Like your
and
life
the
mirrors
substance.
where you are in this film, or at least we think it does.
The
as
whale,
audience.
of course.
Yeah,
Brendan
yeah.
Fraser, yeah. Washed up.
Maybe I will predict her. I've been seriously thinking about putting her
Yeah,
in.
so
Seriously thinking about it.
SAG going 5 for 5 in lead actress. It's hard to do that.
Why is it hard to do that?
It just doesn't happen a lot. Now Baptiste, Critics' Choice, BAFTA. The performance has everything. Literally everything. Like it's showy, it's big. She goes through the entire spectrum
Of emotion,
It's
yeah.
like an objectively just like impressive performance on
Yeah.
every level.
Yeah.
And if you've seen it, easily worthy of being
Yep.
in there. She's been campaigning, they're saying she's been campaigning. And
Yeah.
yes, the movie's Bleecker Street, but she's been out there. She's a previous nominee who hasn't been nominated in like over 2 decades.
Yeah.
That's compelling.
She got the trifecta of
She
of
won the
wins.
trifecta. So who else won the trifecta though?
Penelope Cruz.
That's true. But who else won trifecta?
I don't know.
Sally Hawkins and Happy Go Lucky, a Mike Lee
Oh.
film, and she missed.
A long time ago, though.
So it's like all these people have compelling narratives. Then there's, of course, Fernanda Torres, who I really don't want my judgment to be clouded by the fact that people in Brazil who love the movie and want to promote it are like boosting the ever-living shit out of every single post that Fernanda Torres is on. And I don't want to confuse that for, oh my god, look at all this like buzz that she's building.
If she didn't win the Globe, I would legitimately just be like, no.
Yeah.
No. How is that going to happen? Like, how? And I think the only reason she might get nominated is because she was on stage. I mean, does it really show that much that you beat out everybody in that category? Like, not really. Nobody else in that category was a real contender.
Pamela
Even
Anderson.
Angelina Jolie. Pamela Anderson, yeah, sure.
But the Globes make sense to do Torres, I think.
Yeah, but like, you know, it's not that the win was so impressive. It was impressive, but it's really that she got the opportunity to make that speech.
But
and they
also-
had enough time from the Golden Globes to now, to Oscar voting, to run with that and to campaign her. And the performance kind of is on brand for something that would get nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
And pull off that surprise.
It also seems to me that she won the Golden Globe because when the voters have seen everything in that category, they think she's the best. So the problem with I'm Still Here is purely one of visibility, and her making a speech makes voters say, I need to watch that. And apparently, I've heard from multiple pundits that they think the voting extension due to the wildfires, I'm Still Here is one of the movies that, like, a little more time for voters to get to it has helped it
I could
immensely.
buy that.
I actually feel like she's a pretty good bet. And also, her studio is Sony Pictures Classics, who is very capable of surprising in an acting category. Or, of course, they were the ones who had Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers. But, you know, Torres has not gotten a ton of critics' attention. Surprisingly, a lack of critics' attention.
Really not a
and
lot.
didn't make the BAFTA long list, which is crazy
Yep.
for, you know, an international performance contending for the Oscars. So it's an interesting case where it really is that Globe win that it's... And the fact that she's worthy and, like, really, really good.
People also
if you see the movie, you
I think
know.
enough people also like that narrative where she's basically stepping in her mother's shoes for
Yeah.
an Oscar nomination.
That's-
Like
that helps.
that's a nice narrative for her. I think she has the best shot. I think the Golden Globe win is really hard to argue with. Although there's a great stat, by the way, for if you win the Golden Globe for Best Drama, you get nominated.
Oh, that's obvious.
But the problem is that nobody who got nominated in that Golden Globe drama category was a lock for an Oscar nomination, and nobody was in a Best Picture movie, and that is probably like as rare as the stat itself.
like, if there was a year to be an exception to the rule, it could be this
Yeah.
one for sure.
So, but nonetheless, I think I would go with Fernanda Torres. I might put Pamela Anderson at number 6, but really Baptiste, I feel like would be a great spoiler.
I do think that Hard Truths not performing that well at BAFTA, you know, Michelle Austin not getting in, the movie not showing up for the long list in Screenplay, it reflects something about the film, which I thought was true, is I have a hard time seeing a lot of people satisfied, I guess, with it, with the ending and the ambiguity.
Well, the performance stands out no matter what, but
Yeah.
I also was expecting BAFTA to go with Michelle Austin, at least in supporting actress. That didn't happen, and it didn't get longlisted in Screenplay. So Hard Truths is not really, it's not a Best Picture contender.
But the
at
critics
all.
really went out for it too. That was great. She's so close though. Another, you know, if there was less competition, she might not even be that hard to predict. I think that the top 7 is super competitive. I could see anyone making it in, and I can even see scenarios where one of the locks misses to accommodate one of these other ones.
Yeah, but that's
the
a rare
safe
scenario.
thing to do, I think, is to put Torres in, to put the top 4 in.
Yeah,
and so that's what I'm
which
doing.
is the
here.
top 5 that everybody has, by the way.
That's
which
fine.
is fine. Which is fine.
It makes sense.
It makes enough sense. Angelina Jolie like can't get it.
Kate Winslet, Lee, don't care. I am never going to predict another Andrea Riseborough unless extraordinary circumstances. Every year, we're pretending that this is going to happen every year. Okay.
The Andrea Riseborough situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go to Best Actor. So, got Brody, Chalamet. They are competing for the win, and I don't know who's winning. Ray Fiennes, Coleman Domingo. They seem locked. They're getting in everywhere. They're having no issues. Now, the 5th slot. Daniel Craig has one fantastic thing that we didn't expect that seems to work really well in his favor. And he also has a shocking miss that he was supposed to be locked for. He got the SAG nomination. He didn't get BAFTA. It's totally backwards. It makes no sense.
And BAFTA had 6 slots.
You really just have to weigh. Do you think the SAG surprise was so good that the BAFTA snub doesn't matter, or do you think the BAFTA snub was so bad that the SAG surprise doesn't matter?
Well, there's also other things you can weigh, like what the competition is, which I think is important. And by the way, the problem with Queer is that it's a 2.5-hour movie. It's kind of a chore to get through for many people.
Yeah,
that is a hard sell, especially for people sitting at home watching the screener.
I heard from Matt Neglia that he's heard people turning off Queer. They can't finish
Yeah.
it. I don't know how he got into SAG though, like under these circumstances. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe they just host more in-person screenings.
BAFTA, again, the circumstances is important. They loved The Apprentice, so that made a lot of sense.
Yep.
And, you know, Hugh Grant took his spot. Hugh Grant's another Brit that they love, and he's Probably a little bit more royalty than Daniel Craig.
The thing with The Apprentice, this is where we have to talk about The Apprentice, because that was really, really well liked with BAFTA. It got onto their long list, which is basically like a Best Picture 10. That's absolutely extraordinary, and it also got 2 Golden Globe nominations. Sebastian Stan even got up and made a speech for A Different Man, which is not The Apprentice. But there's certainly something to be said for the fact that he was nominated for both films, and he did shout out The Apprentice in his speech. It's also kind of a question of how much do you think The Apprentice is a contender at Oscar, because there's been a notable difference with its performance internationally and in the US, not just with nominations, but with box office. It's actually done very well internationally. It's made, I think it's picked up, like you said, $17 million in the global box office, and then domestically it's like $4 million. It's doing much better overseas, and so it's probably not going to have the same performance in the Oscar as it did at BAFTA.
Jeremy Strong got in at SAG, though.
I know.
So they're not totally closed off from it. Sebastian Stan and Daniel Craig both have a similar narrative in that they've been around for a bit, and this is now their time. Like, they've really shown a serious role, and then it's their year to get nominated. I think Daniel Craig being a little older maybe helps with that narrative. The international vote that The Apprentice has, it still applies somewhat to Oscar, as we know they have international overlap.
Do you think that voters are watching The Apprentice?
Probably.
Has anyone speculated on this, like talking to Oscar voters? Because I just don't know what's happening.
Probably an okay amount of them have seen it.
I've always felt that performance from Sebastian Stan was so good that it would just get nominated for an Oscar and not really have any problems. And this year, it's not even that crowded. Craig's performance in Queer, it's starkly different from what we know him as and what in his previous work, and we're really excited about that, but that movie is not for everybody, even though I think it's very good. Whereas The Apprentice is a highly watchable, entertaining film. I think the only reason you wouldn't watch it is if you were just like upset and you didn't want to think about Trump at all. Sebastian Stan really transformed to play Donald Trump. And he did a great job. And I'm not really considering Hugh Grant for Heretic. I think that was like because they like Hugh Grant.
I think it's super close. I don't think it's easy to just, stick Craig in and say, well, he got SAG. But also, SAG is the one category, SAG Best Actor, in like the last 5 years, the amount that they go 5 out of 5 is insane. It makes sense that Hugh Grant and Sebastian Stan did well at BAFTA. I still think that Daniel Craig was weak for not beating at least Hugh Grant. I'm just going to go with Daniel Craig. I don't know how many eggs I want to put in the Apprentice basket either.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Daniel Craig also. Maybe leaning that way, one, because I think SAG is maybe more important than BAFTA this year. And also because The Apprentice did so well at BAFTA that I'm just skeptical it's going to be as well liked for the US.
I mean, Queer is not necessarily a better vehicle.
No, it's not.
That's the other thing.
But I wonder if it's like the thing where Oscar voters vote for their friends, and Craig is a more established actor, and it's like, oh, it's time to see Daniel Craig get an Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, how else do you explain the SAG nomination?
Hey, it could be
Sebastian Stan was in a biopic too. That's much more SAG friendly, and there's nobody else that we're considering, right?
No, I mean, some people think Sebastian Stan for A Different Man, but I think it's clearly his less strong vehicle.
Yeah, supporting actress. So Saldana, Grande, that's the 1 and 2. Those are the only locks.
I think at this point, but also Saldana will win because Emilia Perez is closer to Best Picture. And I've always thought that it's going to come down to what film they like the best.
I think Rossellini's number 3.
Me too.
She has more nominations behind her. Her being part of like this massive Best Picture thing with Conclave, her narrative of being, her first nomination after all these years.
And the performance being very memorable despite not a lot of screen time. And the Oscars, I've noticed, will go out for those performances that don't have as much screen time.
Oh,
where
yes.
Other awards bodies will not.
Yes.
So examples of this, Judd Hirsch, Judi Dench for Belfast. What?
I mean, hey, Beatrice Straight for Network, right? Classic.
Yeah. And also Judd Hirsch getting in over Paul Dano. It's about quality over quantity sometimes. I think this is deserved also. I think people are like being dramatic when they say on Twitter that she didn't do anything. What? Huh? She was great in that little part, and it really sticks with you because of her performance. I think that's solid. I think the Oscars would do that, and she's performed better than I thought she would.
Then there's Felicity Jones for The Brutalist.
Best Picture movie.
I'm worried though.
But she hasn't performed perfectly.
I mean, there was that Clayton Davis report that that voters aren't like finishing The Brutalist, and maybe they stop at the intermission. And of course, if they do that, then they're not even going to see Felicity Jones. I think that I can't imagine that represents enough voters where one of the top contenders is like suffering this much from people not finishing it.
Here's why I don't think that's the reason why she's being left out, because critics watched and finished The Brutalist, and they also left out Felicity Jones. I think some people just aren't that high on the performance, and I don't really get it because I'm one of the people who thinks that's a great performance, but I think some people just don't care as much about it.
She's got that big final scene.
No, I think there's enough there that she's going to be okay, and The Brutalist did so well at Globe.
I think
it did so well at BAFTA that I think it's fine.
There's enough there that
it's a Best Picture.
I'm going to predict her, but
yeah,
I'm worried. Like, I am worried that I'm so out of sync with how some people feel about this performance. It only has Golden Globe and BAFTA. I mean, that's what Selena Gomez has. And we're not predicting Selena Gomez.
Well, maybe we should.
Jamie Lee Curtis question comes up.
Goodness.
She's made SAG and BAFTA. My first reaction to this was Eddie Redmayne, the good nurse. Like, this is just that thing that, you know, you think you're all safe because you got some precursors, but then you're not in the Best Picture. Classic move for the Oscars to just not nominate you and put somebody who's in Best Picture. And that is a classic move. And her and Daniel Craig and Jeremy Strong are contenders for missing in this way. However, I do think that Jamie Lee Curtis is a magic campaigner machine. There's no other way to explain it other than that there's afterglow from her winning for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Even BAFTA, like, BAFTA didn't care that much about that movie. They also didn't longlist Last Showgirl for Best Actress.
Yeah.
And she still got in.
She has some magic sauce. Like a secret sauce.
Likeable person that people are just like, more for you. Like J.K. Simmons being the Ricardos, it was like, you know, after that Whiplash win, like, we got to give you some other kind of nomination. Margot Robbie for Mary Queen of Scots is an example of SAG-BAFTA combo that didn't translate.
Yeah.
I have a list of all the movies. I got 2 acting nominations at SAG that weren't in Best Picture. The list includes 12 movies. And the only one that didn't get any of those actors in at the Oscars was House of Gucci. Most of the time, when 2 actors get into SAG, one of them's considered more locked. So, you know, there's that. But the fact that 2 actors got in for Last Showgirl, too, it can be hard to deny, and I don't want to dismiss Last Showgirl too much. So I have Jamie Lee Curtis in.
Same here. Now, I do want to consider the possibility of Selena Gomez getting in, and here's why. I think we may have been right about Selena Gomez at either Golden Globe or Critics' Choice, but I feel like we're in backwards land for her because SAG, it seems like they would do Selena Gomez and they didn't.
She can't make it into a lineup of 5, right?
Well, BAFTA seems like they wouldn't do Selena Gomez, but they also shortlisted 3 Amelia Perez actresses.
They went so nuts for that movie.
Amelia Perez is not a film to be underestimated.
But I've also felt that the Oscars would have a harder time putting her in, feeling like she's just got less, I guess, like, prestige in her career. She has like a very popular TV show that she's been nominated for and stuff, and people like her from that. I just have always felt like the Oscars would gatekeep it, but she's possible. She's one of the people that is possible. But her not getting a SAG, I don't really, you know, I can't quite say the Oscars are gonna go more nuts than SAG for that performance. So, Jamie Lee Curtis missing would be kind of classic, though. It'd be like, yeah, that happens every year.
I guess. Kind of I think I'm comfortable enough with this 5, but let's explore other options because we have a lot here, actually.
Is Margaret Qualley really dead? She didn't get SAG, she didn't get BAFTA. We kind of said that's it for her, but you can get in without SAG and BAFTA, especially if you have both Golden Globe and Critics' Choice.
America Ferrera.
She got only Critics' Choice. I mean, look, usually an actor who got like only Critics' Choice or was doing well early in the year, I mean, Brian Tyree Henry and Judd Hirsch both got in the same year, and they were both just Critics' Choice. This kind of thing happens. And Margaret Qualley is easily a contender for that. Especially because she's attached to the Best Picture movie.
Yeah, I think she's possible. I don't know how. It's kind of harder for me to say that she would get in because her performance has always been one where I'm like, well, there's no Oscar scene there, so I don't know how well that performance sticks, how much traction there really is.
Critics are going nuts for it.
Oh, there's much more than I thought.
Yeah, I also just didn't see it happening from the beginning. I think that people like Margaret Qualley, and they wanted to bring her along for this movie. She's definitely built up a lot of credibility and respect, too. So she's a contender.
Yeah,
she's a contender.
Definitely. And then another contender is Monica Barbaro, who is in a Best Picture film. You know, a la Your Stat, she could get in. She could swap, you know, maybe someone else.
Yeah, I mean, a stat that's not in her favor is usually if you get only SAG and no other precursors, like, you're not getting in.
Right.
One of the only people to defy this was John Hawkes for Winter's Bone. But she makes sense mostly because the movie is surging at the right time. And they seem like they're going to like it a whole lot.
It's an impressive transformational performance.
Yeah, she's playing a real person that people know. And
it probably hurts her, though, that we haven't really seen her in many films except for Top Gun Maverick.
Which was nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, it's something. It's a little harder to put her in. I especially think the lone SAG thing. I would look out for that surprise.
Well, now, Anjanou Ellis-Taylor, I mean, look.
Another potential Best Picture
There's
movie.
A contender for the lone Critics' Choice and then still makes it into the Oscar. But with Nickel Boy's chances looking so, coin flip, I don't know how you can say she gets in without the movie. If she gets in, I'm gonna be like, the movie's freaking in.
Oh
my God. And not only is it in, but now I'm like waiting for Ramel Ross's name to pop up.
Yeah.
She didn't even do like amazing with critics is the other problem.
Right.
Like she did okay.
She didn't do as some places would give Nickel Boy's best film and they wouldn't even nominate her for best supporting actress. I don't understand it. I think she's great in it, but maybe the POV throws people off. So I'm not going to predict that, but I do think if any performance gets in off of just Critics' Choice this year, which you said does happen, it would be this one.
And then there's Daniel Deadwyler for Piano Lesson. I guess some people still have hope in her, but the first snub that she got this season at Globe, I was like, it's no more. I felt like she had to get nominated actually everywhere in order to stay in for this one.
Yeah.
The movie has not been doing well. It didn't get like SAG Ensemble or anything like that. She has Critics' Choice SAG, which is a combo that you can get in off of.
Yeah. She's not impossible, but she's really the only thing that the film can hold on to. So that's a problem for her.
That's just setting yourself up for failure, I think, is predicting her.
Unfortunately, because it was a really, really great performance.
One day, she'll get a nomination. One day.
It sucks that she's probably going to be 0 for 2 now.
So my 5 includes Felicity Jones and Jamie Lee Curtis. That's what I feel best about. Now, supporting actor, we got Kieran Culkin. We got Yura Borisov. We got Edward Norton. Those performances have been nominated everywhere.
Yep, no reason to doubt them.
There's one performance we thought would be nominated everywhere, Miss SAG. That's Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. Yeah. Now, I am okay keeping him in. It's kind of like when Michelle Williams missed for The Fabelmans, and I was like, that's still getting in. It just is. And that's happening for him. He's going to be totally fine. I think that's 4 near locks. I mean, I guess I don't want to say near locks because there is a possibility that maybe Macklin and Strong get in, and then someone's got to give, and I don't know who the hell it is.
I don't know who that would be. Because Norton, like, everybody's really strong in that category.
Yeah, even Borisov is much stronger than we anticipated.
Yeah. Again, Best Picture anchor really helps you out. I honestly just think this is between 2 people for the last slot. Jeremy Strong and Clarence Macklin. What does Jeremy Strong have going for him? Well, he got SAG, he got BAFTA, he got Golden Globe. I mean, that's really, really good. Like, precursor-wise, he's gotten more than enough to be a contender. Getting into SAG in a category of 5, too, really showed a lot in a place where they didn't nominate Sebastian Stan for Best Actor as well, and an American voting body. The fact that he has that is, like, more important in a way than BAFTA. It shows he has support in the US, that his movie is somewhat visible. But again, being in The Apprentice, you're not a guarantee by any means. I mean, he's the movie's best shot at a nomination. Then you could say his co-star has like a 50% or less shot of getting in as well. He's also someone who people have been pointing out, like, we want to give him an Oscar nomination because we love him in Succession.
Yeah. See, I think that's pretty powerful because my first instinct also was that, like Jamie Lee Curtis, I kind of thought he could be that contender for the movie that's not coming along in Best Picture, that gets a lot of precursors. I have an entire list of people who got SAG and BAFTA and then missed Oscar. I also have an entire list of actors who got 3 or more precursors and missed Oscar. And the trend here is that the movies that miss are not Best Picture films. Eddie Redmayne, The Good Nurse, Daniel Deadwyler for Till, Viola Davis, Woman King, Timothée Chalamet, Beautiful Boy. And then you have like Amy Adams' Arrival, Margot Robbie, Barbie, Tom Hanks, Captain Phillips. Those are exceptions to the rule where those were in Best Picture, but you have everything from Emily Blunt, Girl on the Train, Hugh Grant, Florence Foster Jenkins, Jake Gyllenhaal, Nightcrawler, Ruth Negga for Passing. The list goes on, okay? It goes on and on. But the contenders, again, it's Jamie Lee Curtis, it's Jeremy Strong, and it's Daniel Craig. Odds are one of these people's gonna miss, if not 2. But why I kind of want to have Jeremy Strong is that I don't want to have 0 eggs in the Apprentice basket because it actually may get even 2 nominations. I also think that it seems clear he's super well respected in the industry, and people probably feel like it's time to nominate him. I mean, remember Bryan Cranston for Trumbo? He was quite a staple, and it was obviously, love for Breaking Bad helped there. Brian Tyree Henry, he was a surprise, and he got in a lot because there was love for his name, what he's done in Atlanta and other films. Jeremy Strong is just obviously has that kind of love and respect.
Yeah, and the performance is there. And
the performance is totally
basically
there,
a co-lead.
Too. And again, maybe it helps that he's playing Roy Cohn and not somebody that people are too familiar with.
Maybe.
So I feel like he's kind of hard to deny. The other thing is Clarence Macklin getting BAFTA made me think, damn, he really might get the Oscar nomination. But then Sing Sing missed PGA, and If Sing Sing made PGA, I would have predicted it. If we're being honest, Macklin was clearly number 6 for BAFTA. That's all I can say here is Macklin was number 6 and Strong was number 5. Strong got into the 5 lineup at SAG too. Yeah. And the Critics' Choice, the only place that didn't nominate him, like critics have been ignoring The Apprentice like nobody's business. So yeah, I think Strong just has a really good case at this point.
Yeah, the problem with Macklin is we're not even predicting Sing Sing in Best Film, right?
Yeah.
I mean again,
50-50 or
yeah,
whatever,
I think I could totally be wrong on that, but I could even see a world where Sing Sing gets Best Picture and not Best Supporting Actor.
But I could see a world where Macklin and Domingo get in as a pair and not even Sing Sing Best Picture is possible too. Yep,
but the problem is that Coleman Domingo is a lot more of a standout than Clarence Macklin is in the film. And yes, Clarence Macklin is like the supporting standout, but the performance is very organic. And I don't know if that is their brand, whereas like Jeremy Strong is transforming. I think for Macklin to get in, you would need some serious passion for Sing Sing. And the fact that he didn't get in at SAG was like a worse snub than anywhere else because I thought SAG would actually like Sing Sing because it's about acting.
I mean, if you're going to be this level of newcomer in a supporting role, I think you got to be attached to something more sturdy in Best Picture.
It's also really easy to just do 4 out of 5 for SAG in this category and then just like keep him out and then put Guy Pearce back in. Like it's so
putting
easy
Guy Pearson over Jonathan Bailey, like you already know that you're more accurate than SAG there. So it's again, it's kind of easy. And you know, going 4 out of 5 with SAG, going 4 out of 5, 5 out of 5 with BAFTA, I guess. This is not a bad lineup to predict if you're trying to be accurate, if you're trying to be 4 out of 5 here.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to like remove another egg from Sing Sing's nest. I really wanted success for him this season.
In general, it's getting like harder to predict the edges of these categories because only one major precursor now has only 5 nominees.
I do think it's possible though. Like I really don't want to write it off because I do think Sing Sing, it's possible this movie, like the Oscars saw it and it was just fine. Yeah, and it does fine. It gets 4 nominations, maybe 5 with song. It's been extraordinarily invisible to where it matters.
It hasn't done fine since Critics' Choice, and it did better than expected at BAFTA. But
it did.
Other than that.
Weirdly, because I thought BAFTA was like gonna just say fuck that movie, no one care, we don't even care. You know, again, you pointed out that films like The Whale that might tend to do well at BAFTA and not do well at Oscars. So yeah, I guess I got to go with that 5. Now, who else are the contenders? I mean, Jonathan Bailey again, lone SAG, not really that strong.
No, they had a Wicked Palooza. I don't care.
Could Mark Edelstein potentially surprise?
No.
Maybe if he had like a Critics' Choice nomination.
Denzel's done. I still see some people predicting Denzel Washington, and I'm like, what are you thinking? Like, what are you thinking?
Gladiator has been underperforming, and this will be a theme when we do our tech nomination predictions. But it's really like not doing well. Stanley Tucci is completely dead. Long shot Sarsgaard for September 5 if they really want. You know, he's the only acting prospect for that film if it's campaigning like nuts.
I guess original screenplay. You got Honora, Brutalist, Substance, Real Pain. I mean, that's it. That's locked. There's no way. In the 5th slot, look. I have people telling me it's Challengers. I have people telling me it's All We Imagine Is Light. I think you have cotton in your ears at this point. Look, I had September 5 in before PGA, and I was like, okay, maybe you know, if it doesn't make PGA, then it'll have been silent for so long that I'll maybe go to Challengers. But at this point, where September 5 got PGA, no one's gonna tell me that that's not the 5th slot in this category.
A lot of people don't think so. A lot of people are like, Challengers, I just like that movie a lot.
No, that's... If you think specifically Challengers over September 5 is a Twitter-brained, irrational decision. Of course, you love Challengers, and you're like, you've been rooting against and in denial of September 5 the whole time. Like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
That's what that is.
I think you're probably right. I'm not going to go against you. I think the September 5 makes sense to take the last slot for screenplay. And, you know, it's got like a tight script. Like, I think it's fine. Challengers, though, would be a great nomination. I was really, really hoping and rooting for that film to get nominated here. And kind of sucks that it's potentially being squeezed out by a film I feel like doesn't need to be there. September 5 is one of those films, like a complete unknown, that we're not going to remember it in like next year. We're not going to remember that film even if it gets nominated for Best Picture. Let me just offer a speculation here, and this isn't for a nomination. I agree. What there are 6 contenders, and September 5 is probably the number 5. But let me speculate here. If Honora was an adapted screenplay, what would be winning? I feel like The Brutalist isn't a movie that would win screenplay.
No, it could. I mean, well, You're
It
right.
could.
You're kind of right. Maybe it would be the substance because it very much fits that original screenplay.
Maybe the
thing.
substance in the way that like Her was an original sci-fi film, but the substance doesn't have a lot of dialogue. Now let me ask you, how many awards has A Real Pain won in this category?
Quite a few.
Like a lot, right? Isn't
The brutal, as many as The Brutalist, to be fair.
And then Nora's was leading.
yeah, Nora's leading.
A Real Pain actually might be number 2 in this category.
If it's in Best Picture.
And listen, if Honora wasn't in this category, I think a lot of people would be saying that A Real Pain might be winning. It would be ambiguous.
What's the point of this exercise?
A Real Pain actually could be number 2 for screenplay, and you wouldn't really say that a film that's number 2 for screenplay is outside of Best Picture, would you?
Yeah. So let's entertain All We Imagine Is Light for a second.
But it didn't get BAFTA, so let's not.
That's okay. That's pretty much all I have to say. Actually,
Yeah.
is that it didn't get BAFTA, and I don't care. Look, you're worst person in the world example that you want to throw at me. That movie, like when I watched it, I was like, holy shit, screenplay. This movie, it makes sense why it's getting more directing attention than script attention.
Worst Person in the World for Screenplay was one of the most based things the Oscars have ever done.
Oh yeah. Sacred Fig is also done. Hard Truths was a non-starter. Adapted screenplay. Look, the BAFTA 5, pretty compelling to copy it. So Conclave's easily winning. Amelia Perez easily getting nominated. Complete Unknown.
No, a Conclave is not easily winning.
Oh, what the fuck did you just say to me?
So if Amelia Perez is winning Best Picture, will you just predict it for Best Director and that's it?
What?
I guess.
Of
I guess.
course. I
Okay,
don't even
okay.
have to predict it for Best
Oh.
Director.
What? You wait. So if Amelia Perez wins Best Film at the Oscars, you would predict it for not.
I wouldn't predict it for screenplay in a million years.
Why?
Because it would get director or not even.
And it would still win Best Picture?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening this year.
I think Amelia Perez could win Best Screenplay.
Absolutely not. Conclave won the Golden Globe. Like Conclave's gonna win BAFTA. It's gonna win Critics' Choice. It's gonna sweep. It's gonna be easy.
Whoa.
That movie's super strong in that category.
Yeah, but what if Amelia Perez wins Best PGA?
I don't care. Chicago didn't win screenplay.
Okay.
A musical winning Best
Whatever.
Picture. It's gonna win Best Director.
I just want to be cautious about that, even though I agree
No
with
way.
you.
A Complete Unknown's getting in. Look, we thought that we thought that it was, a music biopic is just not gonna get it, but we're wrong. And then Nickel Boys, I think it's gonna be fine. Like this is gonna be the nomination he gets.
Yeah.
Could it miss? Yeah, but I'd be surprised.
It's been fine so far. Like, see, the BAFTA Best Screenplay category is the most interesting here, precursor-wise, to me. They could have nominated Dune, and they chose Nickel Boys and Sing Sing over Dune. For a film that they thought was good enough to give Best Director to. And also, they longlisted Dune for Best Film and not Nickel Boys or Sing Sing. To me, that speaks to the fact that, one, Dune is very weak in screenplay, and two, Nickel Boys and Sing Sing have a surprising amount of strength in those categories that I actually think I'm just going to go with those two and take out Dune and do what the BAFTAs did.
Well, so
because
Nickel
when the
Boys
BAFTAs
has-
did that 5, I thought that seems like that might be the 5 for the Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, Nickel Boys has WGA as well. Like, I think it's totally fine. I actually think Sing Sing is the one that could miss.
I do agree that that's the one.
Because without Best Picture, once I started to accept that Sing Sing may not get nominated, I was like, well, screenplay probably isn't coming along.
Right. I had it out of screenplay until the BAFTAs did it.
Now, why I think it might come along is, of course, the BAFTA. That was important. But, the alt here is Wicked, I think. I think Dune Part 2 is just too weak. They don't care to nominate it for whatever reason. The only alternate for me really is Wicked because they could over-nominate Wicked. It could overperform.
Yeah.
And if it does, I think it would take out Sing Sing.
I mean, look at how it overperformed at SAG, right?
But I think Wicked's just on track to not do well enough to get into screenplay. I just don't think it's quite there.
Well, I think Wicked could still get in. It could replace Sing Sing. It is a stronger Best Picture contender than Sing
Could be
Sing
like
is.
Top Gun Maverick, I guess that's true.
And don't forget to update your predictions and award experts so you can contend for a place on the leaderboard. You can download Award Expert on iOS or App Store, and it's the best place to make your Oscar predictions.
So international, Amelia Perez is number 1. I'm Still Here is number 2. You need to get behind this.
That's correct.
Sacred Fig getting snubbed is within the realm of possibility now. Absolutely no attention on the BAFTA long list. Decision to Leave got snubbed for the Oscar. So did A Hero.
Yeah.
Those were movies that, came out of canon. People were like, oh, maybe they'll even get like director or screenplay, and dropped off entirely.
Yep.
So I just want to put that out there that maybe that doesn't even get nominated, but I'm not going to not predict it. Kneecap did really damn well at BAFTA. That alone could be a reason to put it in. Now, of course, it's British, and that's exactly where it would do well, but the fact that there's some overlap I think there's a pretty good case. Kneecap doesn't feel quite as highbrow as other films that this branch sometimes goes for, but it's electrifying. It's got a 4.1 on Letterboxd. It's a really well-liked movie. It hasn't gotten nominated everywhere. It only has BAFTA and I think Critics' Choice.
But it did really well at BAFTA. That's why I think it's
also...
it made BAFTA Best Film shortlist.
It is on the song long list too, isn't it? So I feel fine about that. I mean, The Quiet Girl did well at BAFTA and that got nominated. They're in the same language. I feel fine about this.
It's a likable enough movie.
And then the fifth slot, you got Girl with the Needle, which was big can movie, very bleak.
Also a low-key contender for cinematography. It got the Spotlight Award at ASC.
Sure.
I don't know if that matters here, but... And then Vermilio, which premiered at Venice, and I think I got the Golden Globe nomination along with Girl with the Needle, and this is kind of hard to tell. Like, it's sort of a toss-up.
BAFTA didn't really help us out because they were obviously going for Kneecap and in the top 4. They were able to do All We Imagined Is Light. So that was just obvious. You know, Girl with the Needle and Vermilio made Golden Globe, and then Critics' Choice went with Flow. Now, that made more sense. Like, critics were going for Flow and Kneecap the most with their awards, and that just kind of made sense. But I do feel like this nomination usually goes towards something like a Vermilio or Girl with the Needle. I know a lot of people think that How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies is a contender here. It would be very rare for that to get in as a movie that didn't have a big prestigious film festival premiere, and I just don't know that it fits the flavor or if it's made quite the splash that it needs to.
Yeah.
I know it's a well-liked movie from those who've seen it, but...
Yeah, no, I've seen it, and I think it's a heartwarming film. It doesn't feel like a European art house movie, so I would expect they wouldn't go with that. I think it's between Girl with the Needle, Flow, Vermilio. Are there any other long shots here? I mean, this is the international category. They don't always do what we expect.
Sure, I just have no clue. Like, I would love for Universal Language to be there, but...
Yeah.
There's no evidence that that's taking off. So something I've noticed is that it's easy to over-expect Cannes competition films in this category. You may be surprised to hear that most years it's only 2 Cannes films. Now, sometimes ineligibilities affect that, like, you know, this year, All We Imagine Is Light's not going to be there. That probably would have been nominated, of course. That's just how it happens, though. And so Girl with the Needle, that's my slight hesitancy. You could go with Vermilio, which premiered at Venice. They're both period films. They're both very atmospheric, it seems. They both are well-liked. Even last year, like, remember Fallen Leaves and The Taste of Things were supposed to get in, and they didn't. Perfect Days did, though. You know, some will point to the fact that Denmark has been nominated a whole lot in the past, like, 20 years or so. I'll go with Girl with the Needle, I think, but I'm super torn between that and Vermilio. So documentary, this is a category that has a lot more precursors than you may think. We look at Cinema Eye, we look at the International Documentary Association, the IDA. The Indie Spirit, I think, counts as a precursor, and maybe even the Gotham. So No Other Land has been sweeping every single award possible. Every Critics Award, every major documentary award. No reason not to have it at number 1, and if it didn't get nominated, that would be insane and may say something about the Academy. Sugarcane has gotten Cinema Eye, Gotham, IDA, got a DGA nomination. It's been getting a lot of attention. Black Box Diaries has Cinema Eye, IDA, and BAFTA. Daughters has Cinema Eye, DGA, BAFTA. Also won a prize at Sundance, which I would consider to be a precursor if you win a prize at Sundance, because a lot of the documentaries come from Sundance. Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat has done great. It has DGA, IDA, Indie Spirit, Cinema Eye, Gotham. There are a couple other movies that are doing really well with precursors. So The Remarkable Life of a Villain has an award from Sundance, got an IDA nomination. It did miss BAFTA. It doesn't have as many as these other films, I think. And then Dahomey has IDA, Gotham, Cinema Eye. I think Dahomey should have done a little better. I expected it on the BAFTA long list. Actually, Porcelain War may have come up a bit strong because it's the only one out of these main contenders that got PGA. PGA, completely different looking from a lot of the other precursors. It is PGA, DGA. It won an award at Sundance. But again, like, I think that just the ones that have the most awards, it's No Other Land, Sugarcane, Black Box Diaries, Daughters, Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. They all make sense with the taste of the branch here. A couple outside contenders, you know, some people may be saying Will and Harper, but that did not do well with a whole lot of these precursors. It does have BAFTA and PGA, but those really important ones that are chosen by, you know, documentary filmmakers like IDA, it just not showing up at those awards, even though it's winning critics awards. I am easily betting against it. It also is a celebrity doc that they often don't really care for in the same way that critics groups do.
Do you take any stock in the original song shortlist?
No. Look at American Symphony last year.
Yeah.
If it's Union, The BB Files, Hollywood Gate, Queendom, or Edo, then, well, I'm just surprised. Animated feature, easiest category of all time. It's Wild Robot, Flow, Inside Out, Wallace and Gromit, Memoir of a Snail.
Yep.
There are no other possibilities. They're not nominating Moana 2. They're not doing Transformers 1. There's Piece by Piece. It's just funny. Don't care about anything else. Don't care about Chicken for Linda. Everyone knows it. Everyone's going to be right.
Easiest category. Probably the easiest category out of any category.
It's got to be the only category where on Award Expert, 91% of people have the number 5 predicted. In cinematography, so here's kind of a challenging category, I would say.
Yeah.
There are 4 movies that have been nominated everywhere. And if you want to go against one of them at your own peril, you can. But the 4 are The Brutalist, Dune, Nosferatu, and Conclave. And when I say everywhere, I mean ASC, BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and even BSC.
Nickel Boys has been performing poorly with industry awards. It hasn't gotten any. It did get the Spotlight Award at ASC, which it shared with Girl with the Needle. And that award is given to films that don't actually qualify for the nominations.
I still think it wouldn't have made it, though.
Yeah, it could have made it over Wicked.
I don't know. So ASC gave us 7 nominees, which does complicate things. Because I will say, if Complete Unknown made the 5, I'd be super tempted to put it in. Now, the only reason I don't really have it in is because it made it in 7, and I'm just like, okay, maybe that was one of the lower ones. And the only movie I would consider swapping it for is Conclave, because I can see how Conclave would get ASC and BAFTA, but I don't know if it's the showiest work in this lineup, but it has all 4 nominations. Now, why am I not considering swapping out Maria? When you get into ASC, and the only reason that you get in is because the branch likes the guy who did it. You know, they have a favorite here.
Yeah.
El Conde got in last year, same cinematographer.
And Maria, by the way, has just been getting shat on everywhere else. Like, even the BAFTA long list did not go with Maria in Best Cinematography for the long list. Or costumes, or actress. So,
critics,
despite being shat on, the ASC looked at Maria and said, well, you're still Edward Lockman. You're still doing your magic cinematography work, and this is a great looking film, and they still gave him the nomination for it. So I think that means something. I think Edward Lockman showed us with El Conde that his name means something, and his work is absolutely phenomenal. It's just beautiful, gorgeous, and just technically brilliant. So I think cinematographers who follow work technically and they like to read about like how the cinematographer made the decisions they made, I think they're aware of Maria.
All a movie like this needs is the ASC, and then it's locked. Like, remember Bardo was doing nothing anywhere. It got ASC. So when that kind of surprise happens at ASC, the Oscars always follow up on it.
But again, we don't know if it wasn't really surprising because it got into a line above 7.
So did The Grandmaster in 2013.
Okay.
And The Grandmaster, was that surprising? Was that predicted?
No.
Exactly. Also, because ASC gave us 7 movies, you have to go with everything they did.
What's the movie they didn't go with that they could have gone with?
Amelia Perez. That was the one where I said, if you're missing 7 slots, I don't know what to do with you. And I'm just going to say that BAFTA nominated that movie everywhere possible. Check, kind of mindlessly. And so I can leave that out pretty comfortably. Now, I'm seeing some mofos going for Girl with the Needle, and I just need to... Yeah, I got the Spotlight nomination. It's black and white, whatever. So there was a Russian film called Dear Comrades that was all black and white, got the Spotlight nomination, and we were kind of like, oh, should we look out for that? It didn't happen. Listen, the only 2 times that the Spotlight Award has resulted in an Oscar nomination are The Lighthouse and Ida. Both of those films also got a BAFTA nomination. So... you don't get nominated just off the Spotlight Award. I don't think you should be predicting Girl with the Needle, especially when ASC gave you 7 picks. If Girl with the Needle was done by a cinematographer who was a previous nominee, that would also be a different story, but it's not.
I think it has awards-worthy cinematography, but it wasn't like a guarantee ever. It's not like some of the year's most insane cinematography work, like groundbreaking. I'm happy with this 5, but I definitely think A Complete Unknown could spoil.
That's the spoiler. That really is the one that I think... You know, I always thought if ASC goes forth, then Oscar will probably follow, but...
No, this could be weird. Like, I just go 3 out of 5 is what we're predicting.
This is just the best I can do, because we have 4 movies that got in everywhere, and then we have Maria, which I know is happening, right? That's the best I can do.
Again, Amelia Perez could still get in here, and Nickel Boys is probably honestly done here.
I would have said that Nosferatu is vulnerable, but... I think it's gonna get tech nominations. Like with that BAFTA performance, I have to think it's in. I also think that ASC likes Papa Michael. You know, they've nominated him 3 times, whereas BAFTA and Oscar have only gone for 2, I think, or maybe 1 for BAFTA. In editing, Dune has been getting in everywhere. Now, I know some people think that Dune is vulnerable in tech categories, and it is, but I don't think cinematography and editing are the ones that it's vulnerable in. I think it's just gonna get those.
I think it's still contending to win editing. Nothing else seems like competition for it to take the win.
Amelia Perez and Conclave could do it if they win Best Picture.
Yeah, that's fair. And then I would have those at like number 2 and 3.
Honora also has been nominated everywhere, hasn't missed a beat.
Yep.
So that's an easy top 4 for me.
Yep.
Dune, Amelia Perez, Conclave, Honora. Then it's that 5th slot. I am really close to thinking September 5 could do this.
And because that's been getting nominations where it hasn't gotten Best Picture, like at the Critics' Choice.
Yeah.
It was also getting nominations with critics groups, even when they weren't nominated in Best Film. So
Sometimes,
it's been singled out.
The editing is a strong aspect of the movie.
Yeah.
It makes a whole lot of sense. Like, if it shows up in Best Picture, I think it is getting Best Editing.
And there's a lot of like archival footage. Like, I think they love when you integrate archival and real life footage. I think that's kind of bait for this category.
On top of that, it could be like I, Tonya and Tick Tick Boom and get editing without Best Picture.
Yep.
That is a very possible thing that could happen.
Yeah, so I think you should predict it hit, even though you might not be predicting Best Picture.
I might not predict it.
Really?
I'm between that and Complete Unknown.
That's fair. That's probably the number 6.
Complete Unknown did not get BAFTA editing, and it was really strong there. So that's a bit of a hit.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do about that? Kneecap got editing, though. That's not getting the Oscar.
Sure.
So maybe Complete Unknown was number 6. I don't know. Maybe Substance was number 6.
But they didn't
I don't
have
know.
September 5 on the long list.
Right. My argument would be that, again, September 5 is not the most widely seen movie. But what is widely seen? A Complete Unknown. Absolutely, 100%. Walk the Line got an editing nomination. Ray got an editing nomination. You know, Bohemian Rhapsody and Elvis more obvious because the editing was like more frantic and showy. The fact that it's like a DGA, BAFTA 5 level contender and a music biopic, it could definitely show up in editing. And even though it hasn't gotten a ton of precursors here, it just wouldn't shock me that much if it's surprised.
I also think it potentially being paired with a sound nomination is important for a Complete Unknown. I kind of feel safe with going with September 5 here, though, because really half of my brain expects that to pop up in the Best Picture lineup. And if it did, I think it would definitely have gotten editing and screenplay up to that point. So this way, if I don't have it in Best Picture, but I have it editing and screenplay, I kind of put my eggs in 2 different baskets.
What if September 5 gets just screenplay picture, though? That's also possible.
Does September 5 have any editing precursors? Like, what about the Eddies? Did those
No, the Eddies didn't nominate Complete Unknown or September 5. They did Civil War and Furiosa. It was very funny.
Oh, shoot. What do you think about the Substance here? I mean, that's just not going to happen at this point.
Look,
it just
I would be hope dicting if I...
It's crazy that got sound at BAFTA, but not editing. It would be awesome.
I hope Substance wins, but it's not going to happen. Like, it's just not...
Wicked for editing? Probably not. Challengers for editing? That would be too cool. The Brutalist is one that we need to talk about here. Like, I'm not even considering putting it in for editing.
No, I think that's not happening. It missed...
Because it got a lot. Yeah.
It missed the BAFTA long list, and it didn't get ACE.
It's kind of crazy that... Yeah, but it's just this year's Best Picture film that doesn't get into editing. Like, kind of like Roma. Yeah, that's kind of it. I really think it's September 5 or a Complete Unknown.
All right, let's go to production design. This category, I mean, BAFTA kind of threw me for a loop for not including Gladiator 2, and I was like, is that something? Like, I don't get it. I don't need Gladiator in all these categories, but production design costumes is just pure distilled Oscar bait for them. Like, they even nominated Napoleon, and no one else nominated Napoleon. I'm not ready to necessarily dismiss it so easily, but I think Wicked's doing really well here. I think that's on track to win. Dune's doing just fine. Brutalist is doing just fine. Conclave has nominations everywhere. Now, Conclave being contemporary film, like, it's no lock, it's no guarantee, but what you're looking at in the movie is a lot of ground up stuff, and it seems like a lot of people are aware that they did this whole like recreating Vatican City thing, and it's been able to perform well so far. Hard to deny, right? You just get nominated everywhere. What am I supposed to do? Also, Nosferatu has been nominated everywhere as well. Nosferatu, I was not expecting to put this in for production design, but I really think that we might be on track for like all 4 texts here, and maybe even more than that. Like,
it makes sense. Like, look at Orlok's Castle.
Yeah.
You know, it does make a lot of sense. The fact that it's doing so well. I have the top 5 in Award Expert. Now, Gladiator is the alternate for me. The problem is, the reason why I could see it missing the Oscar as well, even though Napoleon got production design, I guess I would just have to kind of ignore that, is because production design is more of a stat that you get when you're in a Best Picture film, costumes is one where I think Gladiator has a better shot, and I probably won't take it out of costumes.
So maybe Nosferatu misses. It's kind of like the Batman, where it wouldn't shock me if it surprise misses somewhere that people are convinced that it's locked in. And it's generally the case for movies that are not secured for Best Picture. But I think Nosferatu might be some kind of weird exception. Or like an Interstellar Blade Runner type thing where they're putting it into the categories.
It's kind of interesting that Conclave's doing so well. I think that's a good bet, but I could see it being swapped. And yes, I could see Nosferatu being swapped. A Complete Unknown, I think, is a contender here. And then Amelia Perez, I also think is possible. Blitz not getting BAFTA was surprising, and then I would just say that makes it out.
I'm surprised I don't have Gladiator 2, but I feel like I have to knock it somewhere due to it not getting the BAFTA, and it's almost easier to put it in costumes, not production design.
And what about costumes? You probably can't go 5 out of 5 BAFTA here.
No, unless you really believe in Blitz, which, I mean, honestly, Blitz is Jenny Beavan. That's a huge name. I'm not surprised that Blitz got a couple of BAFTA nominations, and it wouldn't surprise me if Oscar still goose eggs it. We have Wicked at number 1. I think Nosferatu's looking good here. It's gotten everything. Conclave's gotten everything. It's contemporary. That's the problem.
It's not locked in, but I have a hard time, like, swapping it for something else. Weirdly, it feels like a lot could happen here. And there's only one film that feels extremely locked to me, and that's Wicked. Even Dune missed BAFTA. Crazy.
Inexplicable.
I
feel like Dune's gonna cave in a couple categories. And
yeah, I know.
This is also a category,
costumes?
by the way, where the Two Towers didn't make it. I think the costumes in particular is like, okay, that's also been done in the first film. What's that different about it?
I thought they were very different.
The reason I think Gladiator 2 could survive the BAFTA snub is that I just think it's about the most costumes. I mean, if you go with the most costumes, though, probably Complete Unknown and Conclave don't make sense as much. And even Beetlejuice might make sense. And Beetlejuice, by the way, is Colleen Atwood, who hasn't been nominated in a little while, but she's a fave. She's a branch fave. Big branch fave.
Beetlejuice weirdly missed makeup at BAFTA, though. I wonder if
Beetlejuice missing both those categories made me skeptical. Yeah, Dune, I don't know why. I just feel like it's going to miss costumes. Or maybe Complete Unknown, honestly.
Yeah, that was a surprise. But that was the only craft category it pulled off at BAFTA.
Right, so BAFTA nominated Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocketman for costumes, and then the Oscars didn't. But it's also hard to say that, the one category that a Complete Unknown got below the line is, like, not going to translate.
I think a Complete Unknown could be strange in the craft categories because people aren't really sure what to do with it. It could even get production design, but then not costumes. It could just do something strange.
Walk the Line got costumes at Oscar. Also, this costume designer got nominated for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and the Madonna directed movie We, and Walk the Line. So that's 3 nominations. That's pretty good.
I just still have a hard time taking Dune out.
I don't know. Look what happened with like the Lord of the Rings movies.
What about Blitz?
BAFTA is biased towards Blitz.
Barely.
How is it barely? That's a British movie. That's about London.
Because they didn't treat it differently than the Oscars would have. They didn't.
They did. They nominated it in 2 categories.
It's not like they thought Blitz was their top 10 movie. It's not like it got longlisted in
like 7 categories.
Yeah, they're all craft categories, though. But look, I think Blitz could blank at the Oscars. Like, is anyone really paying attention to that movie?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think Blitz is best to bet on it blanking. I mean, maybe you could say that BAFTA likes Conclave a lot, and they were always going to nominate it no matter if it's, actually weak or not for the Oscar. I think BAFTA's more likely to nominate something that's a little more subtle in costumes than the Oscars, so maybe I do have Dune in, and I'm just debating Complete Unknown Conclave. So I'm seeing here that Complete Unknown did not get costumes at the Guild, and so that gives me another reason not to predict it. And I'll just go Dune, Conclave, Gladiator. How about that?
It would be really safe to go with 4 out of 5 for BAFTA, but I just can't do it. I can't predict Blitz and a Complete Unknown.
They seem weird this year, so it's okay. It's okay, buddy.
I think I can, but usually they're very, very spot on. So
makeup and hair. So the substance is gonna win easily. I think Wicked's in.
I agree that Wicked's in, even though it's not a prosthetics film.
It's like Joker or Judy or Ma Rainey. Like, it doesn't have prosthetics, but it has a lot of makeup on the main characters.
Okay, Nosferatu, I think, is definitely in.
It's doing well. It's hard to
2
deny.
horror films and makeup. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Maybe.
And then I guess Beetlejuice would be a horror film, too.
Well, so right? Beetlejuice got the Makeup Guild a main nomination for like makeup effects, and so did A Different Man. The Makeup Guild's not the most accurate necessarily in that main category. You don't really get in if you don't have a bunch of prosthetics and stuff. But again, the Oscars like showy work. They like prosthetics. They like the most makeup. Amelia Perez does have prosthetics. It did not get into the main category. Neither did the Grand Budapest Hotel, so it could be a case of like it just didn't have that much screen time, these effects. Amelia Perez got the nomination for like contemporary makeup, which is just very obvious, and like of course it did. And it did get BAFTA. But BAFTA may have just nominated it everywhere. Now some will look at this and say, okay, well, Amelia Perez has prosthetics. The actor did a transformation type thing.
Amelia Perez is going to translate to the Oscars very smoothly.
I know. I'm predicting for a lot of nominations. You know, it being in Best Picture, it kind of helps. Netflix might just get nominated everywhere. They really might. I've seen the, you know, time-lapse transformation with Gascon. The prosthetic is mostly the nose. It maybe a little chin, and then it's facial hair and tattoos.
It's all of it.
And hair.
I mean, there's a lot. There's almost like transforming somebody into, you know, a whole other person. You know, I think Amelia Perez is close. Would you say Beetlejuice is like you wouldn't negotiate with that one, even though it missed BAFTA? You'd say it's probably going to get in?
I think Beetlejuice would be more likely to still get in at the Oscars. I also think if you're going by most makeup, it wouldn't be that bad of a bet to do Beetlejuice and A Different Man. This way you also go 3 out of 5 with the Makeup Guild and 3 out of 5 with BAFTA.
What about Dune?
It got no Makeup Guild nominations, which was insane.
Yikes.
And I think that's just a
BAFTA.
category I'm just going to say that it's going to miss. It actually didn't miss BAFTA. It got BAFTA. I don't know between A Different Man and Beetlejuice, which one I think would be more likely to be swapped out for Amelia Perez.
I feel like the Oscars would do A Different Man.
I know, that's what I'm saying. And the fact that it showed up at the Makeup Guild, that's where non-Best Picture contenders show their strength in makeup is that Makeup Guild. Amelia Perez may very well show up, but I think that the other two movies here have the case for having more makeup. Amelia Perez, the prosthetics are on screen for like maybe 8 minutes. I guess it was enough for Tilda Swinton in Budapest Hotel, but that was more of a complete overhaul. Dune could get in. Waltzing with Brando also could get in.
It is their type of movie. They transformed a guy into Marlon Brando, and he looks very identical to the actor, so that's totally possible.
If everybody was predicting something like West Side Story to be nominated, I would go Waltzing with Brando if that was my other option. But there's so many contenders that have lots of makeup here that it's hard.
Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon got BAFTA. That was weird.
See, Killers of the Flower Moon is the kind of thing, and Napoleon, by the way. Like, I dismiss it so easily if I see something like that show up at BAFTA.
The Oscars do things like Coming to America, Pinocchio,
Jackass Bad Grandpa, Border.
Right. That's kind of their brand. So
A Different Man totally
A Different Man
fits.
feels like Border.
Totally
that's
fits.
kind of,
yeah.
So it could be that.
After driving myself actually insane over this category because I want so badly to put in 6 movies, I've actually come full circle. I decided that A Different Man makes a lot of sense and that it's the kind of movie that would even show up in a year of 3 when we used to have years of 3. I wondered if Nosferatu missing all of the Makeup Guild nominations is a big red flag, but because it made the short list, like, they have nominated vampire stuff in the past. I wondered if Wicked could miss because it has the least prosthetics out of anything, and this year we have a lot of competition in terms of prosthetic-based movies. Even looking at the short list of previous years, I can't think of a more competitive year. But the fact is, Wicked hasn't missed a beat yet, and it does fall in line with other nominees like Joker and Cruella well enough. And I guess you could argue that those films would have missed in a year like this, but maybe they wouldn't have. And Beetlejuice, I wondered if that was like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and 3, which had a ton of work, but the main characters are kind of the same as their previous film, and so that doesn't get nominated. Even though the behind-the-scenes stuff here is insane for Beetlejuice, and it got 3 makeup nominations at the Guild, because I really feel like Netflix can push Amelia Perez to just any nomination they want, given their campaigning power, how they've gotten films like Roma and Power of the Dog over-nominated. But I came back to leaving Amelia Perez out because I just feel like I can get a good 4 out of 5 here. And Amelia Perez, like, the only prosthetic is the nose on the main character for maybe less than 10 minutes. You know, it is a full transformation with the tattoos and the hair. There's definitely a cool narrative to it. The actress is, you know, getting nominated. Maybe I'll change later, but I'm sticking to what I had before.
Okay, visual effects. I'm having a little trouble in this category. Maybe you can help me out, maybe you can't. Dune's gonna win. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes a lock. Better Man? I'm close to saying locked, but I wouldn't say that. It has VES. It got 4 VES nominations, actually. And it got the BAFTA nomination. So what is going against this? Why isn't everybody predicting this? It's a big budget movie, and the studio does the Apes movies. Like, they have a huge challenge making the main character like a CGI character.
Yeah, and it's I think that there's other visual effects, like that take that keeps circulating Twitter. That has a lot of VFX in it that you can't even see.
Yep.
What else? I mean, Gladiator 2 actually did make the BAFTA 5, despite being out for quite a few categories, production design, costumes included. Yeah. So I would say Gladiator 2
It did miss VES. Now, VES, they haven't been the most reliable in the past few years. The BAFTA's been pretty reliable, and I would say going 4 out of 5 with BAFTA is a pretty good idea. And honestly, if you want to be really safe in this category, you might just want to do what BAFTA did and go Gladiator or Wicked. Even last year, we were racking our brains over this category. I would have been better off just to do 4 out of 5 with BAFTA that year.
And this year, we don't have bake-offs because of the fires, I think.
So a lot of people were thinking Alien Romulus. You know, you don't really have much to go off of anymore. I mean, it does fit the bill as like a space movie.
Prometheus got nominated here.
Yeah, but Prometheus got precursors. The Oscars did like it on the longest, though.
They did. It wouldn't be surprising if Alien showed up somewhere.
Wicked, I know everyone's predicting this, and they're like, oh, it's in Best Picture, like it's just so easy. It's a movie in Best Picture in this category. I don't know how many times to remind people, like, Black Panther got snubbed. Poor Things, you were also confident, and I was adamant that it wouldn't get in. And not that I did great on the category last year, but I at least said Poor Things wasn't getting in.
I have a feeling, I have a sense, and I've always had a sense that Wicked wasn't going to make Best Visual Effects.
I just think that purely looking at it from a visual effects standpoint, it's not like the biggest achievement of the year. I mean, some of the animals look pretty good, but sometimes it doesn't look great. Like, if Black Panther can't get nominated, why should this? And those movies do get BAFTA. The Best Picture ones always get BAFTA, so that didn't surprise me. Now, the big red flag here, again, this is where Black Panther didn't happen, is VES. VES nominated Wicked in one category, and not the main category. Is there any business of any guild anywhere snubbing Wicked? I don't think so. I cannot rationalize.
That's a big snub.
I have to take that seriously. What is the alternate here?
Mufasa. So Mufasa got the Visual Effects Society, right? So is that your alt?
What makes me nervous is that I predicted Indiana Jones for the same reason last year. It got the VES, and I was like, okay, you know what? Honestly, they really freaking like their Disney movies.
And
the first Lion King won VES. It's almost like, of course, they nominated the second one, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, why shouldn't the Oscars also follow? Like, I watched a breakdown of this movie, and I was like, this is exactly what they love, is it not? Is this not, like, on the level of all the Apes movies?
Right.
Where they have motion capture people going around, and they've created, like, these photorealistic animals from scratch that can do all these kind of facial movements and run around, and, like, all the environments are CGI too. When you look at what they like to do in this category, it's what is most, like, expensive and impressive. Pretty much, and that's exactly what Mufasa is. Some people also notice that they like, Marvel movies here, and they're predicting Deadpool, but I think that there is one example where a Marvel movie got into the Oscar lineup without Critics' Choice or BAFTA, and I think it's Captain America, the first one. Every other instance where a Marvel movie got nominated, it at least had a precursor. And people go, oh, they always love Marvel. They always go for Marvel. Well, guess what? I tallied it, all right, bro? Critics' Choice and BAFTA and VES, actually less BAFTA, but Critics' Choice and VES also love Marvel. They nominate those movies all the time. For Deadpool to not show up anywhere, the point is, it's not overloaded with visual effects as much as other Marvel films.
So the whole they love Marvel thing is based on the fact that usually a Marvel film gets in, right?
Yeah, there was one year in 2015 where Ant-Man and Age of Ultron were eligible, and they didn't nominate either. So it's not like it's never happened where they've skipped over.
And usually the Marvel film that they do nominate, it's like kind of obvious, like it's Guardians of the Galaxy or it's the Avengers.
Yeah, usually it's easy to spot it. But none of the Deadpool movies have been nominated. I mean, you could have said that about the Spider-Man trilogy as well, but again, that had some precursors. Like,
I mean, Deadpool is long listed for sound, if that matters at all. But I get what you're saying. It doesn't feel like a Guardians or Avengers movie.
The only reason they're predicting it is because there's not another Marvel movie, which I don't think is a good reason. I think that it has to have some kind of case for it.
Usually, it's the most popular Marvel film of the year gets in.
Marvel's less popular now, aren't they? So I don't know.
What's your analysis on Alien Romulus?
I mean, it seems like it has the goods. It has some cool practical applications and puppets and space effects, but it's just hard to predict when it doesn't have any precursors. Like, it could happen. It's not insane to predict, but I thought it might get BAFTA and it didn't. If Wicked gets in and not Gladiator 2, and they nominated something else, I could be completely fucked. Which is why I think, honestly, the safest thing to guarantee 4 out of 5 would be to put Wicked in. I need to go down with the ship on this one and saying, I don't think so about Wicked. I don't think so.
So I caved on Mufasa. I think I'm probably just going to be wrong, just like I was with Indiana Jones, clinging to VES and all. There might be too much of a been there, done that type of thing. Maybe it's a little less photorealistic than the original look. Alien Romulus, I know it didn't get many precursors, but apparently, like, they were pretty impressed with the movie. A lot of the technical branches were. It seems like it has a lot of the typical things that you get in a nominee. I also really am considering Twisters, which did get VES. You know, both movies seem to have a lot of very technical things going on in them when you look into it, so I'm going with Alien over Mufasa. I feel like that's just much safer.
So best sound. This is a little bit of a tough category, but there's some really interesting precursors that can help us out here. So Dune Part 2 and Wicked are both, I think, 1 and 2. Yes. Because they've gotten everything they need to, and they also just make sense. Like, Wicked's like a big-ass musical. Of course, it's going to get nominated for sound. Now, A Complete Unknown makes so much sense for sound. I was swooning, actually, at the sound work in the film. I thought it was so, like, clean and crisp, and the way that, like, the camera moves closer to the guitar, and then you get, like, a more full-bodied sound based on, like, your proximity. It was very immersive. I think A Complete Unknown, despite the BAFTA snub, is in. I mean,
it's absolutely in.
Yeah. That was a crazy, weird snub to me.
The guy who did the sound has been nominated like 20 times.
It makes so much sense. I don't know how to explain the BAFTA snub, but I'm not going to try to.
No, BAFTA's weird because this is like, they don't snub music films. They don't snub Inside Llewyn Davis. They don't snub Maestro. And they snubbed that and Amelia Perez.
Yeah.
Now, Amelia Perez has actually been getting other big snubs.
Yeah.
It only got an NPSC nomination in the foreign film category, which I guess it wasn't eligible for the other ones. There's something about it, it's just not impressing people as much. But that's on the bubble, I would say. If there's one music film that doesn't make it, it's going to be Amelia Perez. At the same time, it might be really safe to just lean on all the musical films.
I think you've given me good enough reason to not predict Amelia Perez.
Yeah, but do you have anything else that you'd rather predict? Because I don't.
Okay, well, Gladiator 2 got the sound nomination at BAFTA despite not doing extremely well, so I thought that was important.
A Gladiator missed the MPSC, but it did get Cinema Audio Society.
So it's like an okay bet.
Yeah.
And how is BAFTA in this category correlating with Oscar? It's probably like as good as all the others, right?
If you're going 4 out of 5, that's pretty good.
So if I put Gladiator in here... Oh, I had Gladiator and Blitz, because that's
Blitz?
4 out of 5 with BAFTA.
You think Blitz is getting a lone nomination?
I think Blitz could get a nomination here. The sound work was very impressive, and it was kind of creative.
They might hate Blitz.
They could shut Blitz out. That's correct. It's not a safe bet.
I still feel like the safe thing to do is to go with Amelia Perez and Gladiator here.
Really, Amelia Perez, you'll still put that in even though it has no precursor support? Just because it's a musical?
Yeah, I think so.
But usually musicals get precursor support.
Sure, but I still think
And you have 2 music films in here. And Gladiator 2, just because it has a lot of sound.
Sure.
It has every kind of sound that you can think of.
You got to get one big, loud blockbuster in here that's not, Dune, I guess.
Alien makes sense. Like, I could see that happening. The Wild Robot and Joker are the ones on the list that don't make any sense.
Also, Deadpool, they do not nominate Marvel movies in this category. I don't know if
I
anyone...
heard there was impressive sound work in the film, but I still agree that
they have not done it. The only exceptions are Iron Man 1 and Black Panther. That's it. I would love to see Blitz here, and Blitz has what it takes. But again, it's too easy for me to say that it got BAFTA because it's British. It is like their war film, though. They don't have any other war films.
It could get 1 nomination. And this would be the nomination it would get if it got something.
Lone Sound, huh?
And it did okay on long lists, right? All right, best score, Brutalist lock, Amelia Perez lock, Conclave.
And then Wild Robot, I think, is going to be totally fine. It got BAFTA. Also, it is How to Train Your Dragon. It's just getting nominated everywhere. I know people are like, oh, I'm so triggered because Spider-Verse didn't get it last year. Like, it's not Spider-Verse. Spider-Verse felt like a thing that it was always like, oh my God, is this really happening? Oh my God, really? Really? And then it didn't happen. But this is just, it's a more conventional, easy score to get behind, I think, for people.
I would say this year, it's also easier to get into score. This category is barren without Dune Part 2.
Chris Bowers also has developed a lot of cred, and I think it's time he actually gets nominated in this category, is maybe what people are feeling. Now, Challengers is at risk, at a high risk.
Oh, yeah.
24% of your app thinks it's winning. That's not happening.
No.
You'd be lucky if Challengers got in, because it's very much like Spider-Verse, where it's like, oh my God, is this really happening? Are we really getting this? Are we really getting Christmas Morning?
It did win the Globe, though. It did
And
win.
it's about to win Critics' Choice. That's fine.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, the BAFTA, they snubbed it from the long list. Very, very dangerous territory here. They got snubbed for Gone Girl and Dragon Tattoo. But the score is so prominent. It is from two-time winners. I think it could still sneak in. And the problem is, when it comes to the alternatives, I'm not that tempted by them. The only one I'm really tempted by is Nosferatu. I mean, obviously that's the challenger. It's doing super well in techs. It made BAFTA over challengers here. I also don't quite 100% get the Nosferatu score hype. I think it's a good score. I don't think it's a fantastic,
also
no-brainer score.
The difference between Spider-Verse and challengers in score is obviously Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They dominate this category usually.
You could go for Wicked, but that has no precursors. You could go for Room Next Door, but that has no precursors.
Yeah.
You could go for... You shouldn't go for Sing Sing. You shouldn't go for Blitz. There's just nothing else you should do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to comfortably kind of go for the top 5 here.
Nothing else has any precursors. You're right. Except for Nosferatu, which has BAFTA.
Yeah.
Is there any other precursor you could possibly get? Also, challengers getting one nomination makes sense.
I think the lack of competition makes it easy to default to challengers.
Maybe Sing Sing has been seen more than we think.
Oh, you're just...
And maybe the fact that Bryce Dessner is doing the score.
No, he's never been nominated,
He's never been
buddy.
nominated. Okay. I think I'll just go with challengers. It won the Globe. If I'm wrong, then oh well.
In original song, last category that's not the shorts. It's El Mal and Mi Camino. I mean, I've seen people trying to predict only one of these to get in, and they're snubbing Mi Camino, and I'm just like, you are basically taking a 2/3 chance of being wrong. I don't know why you're doing this. Getting 2 songs in has worked for movies like Barbie and La La Land. I don't understand. So we're gonna go with those 2. No problems there. Then we got The Journey from 688. I mean, look, Diane Warren is not missing. She never misses. There's no point in doubting her.
Yeah.
Everyone should be predicting this to get nominated. If you want to be right, you should predict Diane Warren. It's a hack. Kiss the Sky might even win Critics' Choice.
How the fuck? Why?
I don't fucking know.
Why are you saying that, Ben?
Because it won more critic awards than other ones. It's been getting in everywhere. I'm a little skeptical that the Wild Robot song is just not going to make it in because it's just too kiddie. But at the same time, it having gotten everything so far and being a strong contender in score as well, it's hard to doubt. If I had more hunches,
I really do think it's possible that the Wild Robot comes up short of its 3 expected nominations. That is a lot for that film. I mean, for a film that's not really transcending in any other categories. Pinocchio was also thought to be getting 3 nominations. It had an Alexander Desplat score. It had a song that people thought was pretty in.
Oh, it could get Pinocchio'd.
Yeah, in score it's not really that competitive, but song is really one where they can throw you for a loop, and they have a lot of options here.
But a lot of the options feel very speculative to me. I have at number 4. I have the Elton John song.
Wow, really?
I feel like it's going to be easy for them to name check Elton John, who's a favorite of theirs, probably. I mean, he won for Rocket Man, and everybody likes Elton John.
But that song hasn't been getting in anywhere.
I don't care.
You just
look
don't
at
care.
the Oscar. Look at what they do, and look at when documentaries get in, and look at who does the songs for the documentaries that get in.
Fair enough. Well, last year, American Symphony got a nomination. That was a documentary.
There you go. And it was about the person who wrote the song.
It's funny how often Diane Warren gets in. She got in the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
Wait, really?
Wait, Diane Warren hasn't missed a nomination in a fucking decade? Diane Warren hasn't missed a nomination since 2016.
Holy shit. In 2016, you have Jim the James Foley Story, which Sting did the music for. So there's a documentary that got in because of who wrote the song. A cool nomination would be Sick in the Head from Kneecap. That'd be a really cool way to honor that movie, to give it a song nomination, nominate the band. But I don't know that they're cool enough for it. It's possible.
Yeah. Remember they nominated Hugh Savick?
They could do the Will and Harper song. That would be pretty cool.
That's actually a real standout for me. When I saw that film, I was like, we got to root for this an original song. It is a great original song.
A lot of people are really sold on the Challengers song here too, because they got Critics' Choice and Golden Globe. I feel like they would do that at those bodies because they would make a cooler choice. Compress Repress is only getting nominated because it's Challengers, and they just like Challengers.
Right. It's no surprise it got Critics'
The Oscars
Choice.
would snub Challengers.
Yeah.
Here, they just would. And the song itself, there are individual tracks on the score that are more popular than it. And it's Trent Reznor singing.
How about Like a Bird from Sing Sing? I mean, you just don't think that would happen?
It would happen if Sing Sing was in Best Picture by a decent bit.
What about Winter Coat from Blitz?
No. Blitz? Blitz is nothing.
What would you say if I went Never Too Late and Harper and Will Go West? What would you say?
I would say that you might be hope dicting. A trend here also is sometimes they nominate a song from a movie that's in Best Picture that you didn't expect, such as Killers of the Flower Moon, Everything Ever All at Once.
Yes.
The only contender you have here for this is Like a Bird from Sing Sing, which is not that strong in Best Picture. And that's my fear. And there's nothing else going for Like a Bird. It doesn't have anybody famous on it.
Are you going to go with Kiss the Sky, or are you going to call us?
I am. It's safer. My strategy is this. I don't think that people are correct about Compress Repress, and I think they're underestimating Elton John. Kiss the Sky, I'm like, okay, maybe you're right, maybe you're not, but I already have a swap that I think is going to pay out in my favor. So why would I do two crazy things? Documentary short. We have both looked into this category this year.
Wait, let me just put out a caution for everybody on Award Expert. The community predictions here are not reliable, and let me tell you why. I made arbitrary predictions when I created this category after the shortlists were announced, and the top 5 that I put in arbitrarily became the consensus top 5 in the community, and I strongly encourage people to do their own research or go to Gold Derby or whatever else so we can fix that, because that's like a problem right now in the app. I've just noticed that this category is not really budging because people just want to like fill it out just to have something there, but they're not really thinking about the nominations. So I just need you to know that it's not reliable right now, and you should definitely go against what the community is thinking. Michaela's Voice is like an autism thing, right? And
it's Netflix produced. It's offending people on Letterboxd. It's the perfect winner.
Yeah.
It's the perfect recipe for a winner in this category.
It's like a movie that makes you feel good. I have that in, and honestly, my main rationale for all these is I didn't really watch any. I just looked at Letterboxd and I saw what people are saying about them. So I took into account, okay, if this has a really good score, if it has a lot of passion, that matters. If it doesn't have a great score on Letterboxd, but people are saying, oh my God, of course the Oscars would fawn over this, it just makes sense, then that matters to me. I would say it matters if you have like an issue at the center of your film that's very relevant. And I would also say, you know, in the animated category, especially if you are a previous nominee, like Don Hertzfeldt, then I would say that matters.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Once Upon a Time in Ukraine.
Like the ABCs of book banning last year, basically.
Yeah. I think that it having Ukraine in the title is a very good thing. Also, people like this one, as far as I've seen.
Yeah.
I have no issue predicting it.
I have Death by Numbers.
I have Death by Numbers too.
And why do we have
It's about school shooting. That's the issue at hand, and people also like it.
Yeah.
Incident is about police brutality. People think it's a good short on Letterboxd as well. It reminds me of Do Not Split, which was a documentary about protests. There was a lot of on-the-ground footage. For the last slot, I'm between Chasing Rue, which is a previous nominee, a 2 times previous nominee. And that's the only thing I'm going off of. And I Am Ready Warden, which everybody seems to think is happening.
I don't think that's happening.
Why not?
Because it's about an unsympathetic person. It's not really an issue movie.
It is an issue movie. It's about the death penalty.
From my overview, from my outside perspective, and you can tell me if I'm wrong if you've seen it, it says it's about someone seeking forgiveness who's on death row, but the crime that they did was like really grisly. I don't know if this one seems strong to me though. Like, well, I don't know if like a death row is like a really hot button issue for most people. I think a lot of people just think, you know, okay, well, a guy who killed somebody, like, I don't really care what happens to him. You know, there's another film in here about prisons, but it's about prisoners who make quilts. I think The Quilters is like more of a feel-good film. You know, it's kind of like Sing Sing, where they get this sense of pride from creating something beautiful. That seems rather poignant.
I am predicting it though.
No one's predicting The Quilters?
No.
But isn't this where you can deviate? Like, come on.
No.
You can totally deviate from what people are predicting.
No, I don't usually go that hard off of my hunch. I usually want to have a good reason. I usually try to stick somewhat close to what people are predicting and make a couple changes. That's what I usually do.
Well,
I usually go +1 every year. I usually do better than Gold Derby by 1 movie.
Well, the Only Girl in the Orchestra seems like one that people like. It seems competent enough that it would get nominated.
It sounds like a movie that would be nominated.
Animated short. Would you not predict Me from Don Hertzfeldt?
No, maybe not.
Why?
Because I heard it's super out there and experimental, and it's not like his other movies that, you know, it hits in a very immediate or accessible way. It's also like a project that was derived from a music video that didn't happen.
It's a 3.8 on Letterboxd, though.
Yeah, think about what they wish that it was. Letterboxd wants every Don Hertzfeldt movie to be at least a 4.2. I think people are predicting it because of him. It's not bad to predict things off of, you know, previous names and stuff. They're a little underwhelmed, I think. They wanted to like it more.
Like, they like the imagery, but they don't really know what the story is. That kind of makes sense.
I'll tell you the 4 that I'm solid on. A bear named Wojtek, I think, is going to win.
Really?
Yeah, it seems really likable.
Really?
It's a true story that people can get behind. It's fun and cute. It has an animal in it, and it feels like the kind of thing that, if nominated, it would win. Wander to Wonder, I'm sold on that.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep, I have that.
It's stop motion. They like stop motion.
What about Beautiful Men? You have that?
I'm on the cusp with it. Maybe
People
Elephants
like
I
it.
have because the director's been nominated twice in this category, Toril Cove. She did not get nominated for her last film, but again, like, a previous nominee is a good thing to go off of. And I think In the Shadow of the Cypress makes sense. I just hear from people who watch it that it's checking all the boxes. It's well liked. And then I'm considering A Crab in the Pool, which is a 3.7 on Letterboxd. It's very well liked. It's heartwarming. It might make people cry, perhaps. Some people like to say that the titles matter here, and that if you have a catchy or a weird title, you're more likely. And I don't know why Crab in the Pool feels like a title that could show up.
There's also a title called The 21. It's about ISIS. So it has that like immediacy of an issue movie. It's honoring the 24 Coptic men martyred by ISIS in Libya.
A lot of people think it's like exploitive, though.
No, a lot of people think it's Christian propaganda. That might be a deterrent, but honestly, for the Oscars, I don't know if it is. Like,
Yeah,
Letterboxd
good game.
hates this movie, but it also feels like it would be a sentimental and simple film, and that's kind of what they like. So I am really looking out for the 21.
I've heard Magic Candies is good. It has a stop motion style to it. Beautiful Men's possible. Me is possible off of the name, but I think that the movie might not quite be there. And live action short. So I think The Man Who Could Not Remain Silent seems very solid.
Yeah.
I think An Orange from Jaffa also is about like a Palestinian checkpoint like through Israel, and that's very topical. Anuha seems to check a lot of the boxes about like, you know, movies about children and stuff. And
Yeah, it's apparently a feel-good movie about a kid who works in a factory. That makes sense, but I'm not like sold on it.
Yeah.
The Masterpiece is one everybody thinks is happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Really.
I just don't know.
That's a very well-liked film, too.
Why does everybody think so?
People just say it's like one of the more striking and memorable films.
It's like about class tensions. They live in a house that looks like the house from Parasite.
Yeah. Alien also seems like a topical film because it's about ice.
Yeah.
And that might be really on people's minds right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if that got in there. I'm Not a Robot has very good reactions, good reviews, but it's kind of like a sci-fi film. It's a little like clever. And maybe it's like too good to get nominated or something.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people saying it might be their favorite in the category. that they've watched.
I've seen that happen though with genre films that people like in this category. They don't quite register. I gotta tell you that I feel like Room Taken's gonna get nominated.
It's about a homeless man who secretly takes up the residence of an elderly blind woman, which leads to them forming a unique bond. It feels like the kind of sentimental thing the Oscars would like. So I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, it's
feels
like creepy and weird, but the Oscars are gonna think it's sweet.
Yeah.
And they like movies about, you know, you have your homeless person, you have your blind lady, like, they bond, it's unlikely, it's heartwarming. I
Yeah.
mean, remember the fucking one about the little person and the transgender lady on the
Oh my
train?
God,
like,
yeah.
that one wasn't even good, but it tried to be really heartwarming about, like,
Yeah.
two unlikely people coming together. It wasn't even good. That was weird. That's why I feel like Room Taken would get in.
Yeah.
I agree that Alien's possible. Maybe I have to go with The Masterpiece, though. And so that is what we are predicting for the Oscars. We're nervous. We're hoping to be right.
I'm just trying to get like 80%, you know, for the craft categories and everything. I just want 4 out of 5 in most categories. That would be an amazing performance. I know I'm not going to get everything right, but I don't want to be like too bullish about any hunches either. So I'm trying to like moderate that.
Yeah.
But really, like, I'm just looking at that best picture category. I care a lot about some of the acting categories. I want to see a surprise. I want something that makes me feel like the Oscars did their homework. You know, maybe if Baptiste got in, if Ellis Taylor got in, if Macklin got in, like, I would be really, really happy. Deadweiler even, I would be really happy about that. And of course, you know, rooting for Nickel Boys and Sing Sing, like I've been saying all year. I think these are some of the year's best films. They're extremely moving. Nickel Boys, I think, is going to have an amazing legacy no matter what, no matter if it gets nominated here or not because of the filmmaking on display. What we're watching out for September 5. Oh, we're watching out for it. We're watching out for Amelia Perez getting 11 nominations. Who knows where it will get nominated? Could be more.
And stay tuned for when we react on Thursday. And then we're going to be at Sundance. So you're going to have Sundance content. And we're actually talk about liking movies for once, which I feel like is overdue to talk about movies that we like. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
How weary are you of September 5?